3 o'clock on a Wednesday afternoon. Welcome aboard the Postgame Show along with Elijah Campbell, the freshly shorn Elijah Campbell. I'm Jay Phillips.
Some are saying it. Those are the rumors.
Looks good, man. Still long.
Yeah.
You look like, I'm not going to lie, and this is a compliment, all right? But with it, I mean, you wear glasses too, which is also fine. You kind of got a Barry Gibb thing going on.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Big Bee Gees guy.
Yeah, you kind of honestly have a little Barry Gibb thing going on.
Does this make this the Barry Gibb talk show?
It's the Barry Gibb talk show. If y'all haven't seen that, it's the last one they did was last season, and that was like 10 years apart, right? JT.
Oh man, I haven't even seen a new one. I haven't even seen like the.
They did one last year. They did one last year when JT was back on there. It was pretty funny. Yeah.
Love it. Big Bee Gees guy.
No, I like the Bee Gees. Very talented, man. Barry Gibb, amazing songwriter.
Yeah, this is more Barry Gibb length of hair.
Yeah.
Usually, I've had it like well below my shoulders for years.
Yeah.
So I get like one haircut a year, and I was like, you know what? We'll make this one last a little bit.
It took me just a second just now. I came in. We were just sitting there talking, and I had to look, and I kind of looked. I was like, wait, Elijah, not just, I mean, you probably lost. I'm going to go 8 inches or so.
Yeah, I mean, it's just 7 or 8 inches, something like that. I mean, it was a healthy cut. It's well above the shoulders now.
So that's good.
Kept the beard.
Yeah.
You kept everything else.
That's why I said that's why you got the Barry Gibb thing going.
See, what I need to do is come in tomorrow with like a button-down shirt, have like half buttoned, and then, like what my old high school basketball coach would say, showing your taco meat.
Sure.
Have that out a little bit, and then, I mean, that's full Barry Gibb.
Well, you better get yourself a good chain.
Yes, definitely.
A good 70s style chain.
One that attracts the eye. Then I could really pull it off. Honestly, this would be a great or a fantastic Halloween idea. Barry Gibb for Halloween.
That shouldn't be too difficult either.
No, that's one I pull off.
Imagine you can get some type of leisure suit, that looks good, or just some disco, 70s thing.
Oh, easy. I mean, my wardrobe has a lot of 70s.
Go to Goodwill for that, man.
Yeah, which is where I got most of it.
Right.
I got some like 70s era sunglasses here on my person that I
know
wore
there used to be a joint down in 5 Points. I forget the name of it. I don't think it's there anymore. But they used to have a lot of that throwback type stuff.
Oh yeah, I think it's still there.
Is it still there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Believe so.
All right. I'm not in 5 Points enough. That's on me.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Walk around the area.
Am I allowed to be in 5 Points? If you're over 50, can you go to 5 Points? I don't know how that works.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. You might just get like scorned. Nothing illegal, but I mean, maybe.
Hey, Grandpa, you should be in the Vista.
Or they're looking at you like, it's time to put you to bed. But it's 6:30, sir. It's time to put you to bed. A little too late for you.
Anyway, well, no, it looks good.
I thank you.
Yeah.
I think it looks good.
A lot to get to on today's program. Gamecock coordinators have spoken ahead of the trip to Norman, Oklahoma. South Carolina remains a 3-point underdog in this one. The over-under remains the same as yesterday as well, 40.5, so no real movement there. Anticipating any further movement? I mean, a 3-point spread toward the home team feels like pick'em on a neutral field.
It is, yeah. From what I've always understood, the rule of thumb is if two teams are even, and the sports books find them to be evenly matched, the home team will get about 2.5 to 3 points. Mm-hmm. Or I guess we'll be giving those up.
How differently are people going to feel this time around going into the season, looking at the October stretch? It was like, well, now this one is obviously a lot more winnable even than last weekend. And last weekend, you played well enough to win.
Yeah. Should have won.
Yeah, you can make that case. I've always, as you know, I'm always hesitant unless, you just, like fumble the ball out of the end zone going in for the winning score. Then I could say, and time expires.
Right.
You're like, well, you should have won, but so, but I don't disagree. I'm not here to, I'm not, I'm careful with should, certainly could have won. And there are plenty of Gamecock fans who say they should have won the game. There's going to be a lot more Gamecock fans this week. There already are. Well, we're going to go win this one. We better win this one. If we don't win this one, it's going to be blank, and then, add in whatever level of emotion. But, what if it's the same kind of game? What if you play well enough to win but don't win? Is that still going to be, well, it also means you played poorly enough to lose? Like, I don't know. Again, I don't know what that looks like, but there's a much different feel, and it's odd because of where you're going to play, who you're going to play. Yes, they are down a little bit. Do you find those ways? But it's just odd to me. It's, as we come to the midpoint of the week, and now we really pretty much put on full focus. I mean, yesterday is sort of the last day to look back at the Bama game. We had Ryan in. Now it's really all about the look ahead. And it's interesting that for all practical purposes, you feel like you're in an evenly matched game with the University of Oklahoma football team. And that doesn't feel right for South Carolina.
That didn't feel right for a lot of people to look at this Oklahoma offense and see that they're this dysfunctional. I think that's kind of the big disconnect, right? If you play the helmet game, going to Norman in late October should feel like a loss, like an automatic loss, just because of what we know of that program and its history. But this ain't, this ain't even your older brother's Oklahoma team. I think they're really good defensively. I don't think they're better than you defensively, though. I think you have the better defense. I think you have a better offense on your best day. I think even on Oklahoma's best day, I don't think they beat your best day offensively. I think what version you get of these offenses is going to really dictate who wins, especially when it comes to taking care of the ball. But for the most part, I mean, when you look at position group by position group, I don't see why South Carolina isn't the better team at this point in time. Even on offensive line, which has been the Achilles heel of this football team all season long, Oklahoma's is in a situation kind of like you were in last year with all the injuries. I mean, they are depleted at the line of scrimmage. Like, your defense, in theory, should have a field day against Michael Hawkins and that Oklahoma offense. I mean, this is one of those that if you're not able to win this one, it would feel a little deflating. I know we talked a lot of Tom Brady yesterday, so to stick to the theme, you would feel a little deflating to lose a game of this magnitude, considering I think this hard part of your schedule's over with. But to lose this one would be a gut punch to the 7-5, 8-4 season chances that you really have a legitimate shot at, right?
Yeah, because let's face it, you've played 4 conference games, and there are a lot of people, and I don't want anybody to think, oh, so therefore it's okay, because that's not what I'm suggesting here. But there are a lot of people outside, perhaps, this listening area, if you will, that would have said, well, you're going to be 0-4 in conference play by the time you get to your second bye week. So then how do you find your wins? So you're not. Now, that doesn't mean like, whew, all right, we're all good. Because, again, in 2 of them, you certainly had chances to win, and you really took yourself out of the other one, which still, again, that's going to, as I've told you.
It's going to haunt you for a long time.
That's going to bother me. See, a lot of y'all are bothered about some things from last Saturday. I'm far less bothered, believe it or not, by a 2-point loss with a couple of late turnovers than I am in taking yourself and your crowd
completely
out of a game 3 minutes into the game. And certainly within 6 minutes, right? When did they score their second touchdown? Whatever.
Yeah, very soon after
halfway through the first quarter, you had completely taken everybody out of the game. That one bothers me a lot more, even if I say you might still have gone on and lost by 24 points. So this weekend, you're right. Look, I was looking it up today, and I don't do a lot of this. This is usually Elijah's realm, but I was interested, so I did. South Carolina, 10th in the nation in sacks. That's in getting them on defense. You might not be very good at the other side of it either. I don't know.
No. Spoiler alert.
Yeah. But on defense, 10th in the nation in sacks. 12th in the nation in forced turnovers, 15th in the nation in tackles for loss, 16th in the nation in yards per play allowed. I mean, this defense is excellent. It's not just good. It's not just very good. It's excellent. I don't know that it's the best in the country. I don't know if I'm prepared, enough to say it's elite. I don't know where people draw those lines. But in categories like this, if you're in the top 20 in the country through the halfway point of the year, then this is an excellent defense. And we've all known that this defense is going to be the unit of the 3 that is best equipped to keep this team in ball games late. And we have seen that. throughout the course of the season. Ole Miss excluded. There again, I've made my point about that game. So you're right. This weekend, what does Oklahoma do to adjust what they can do? They've got a dual threat quarterback as well. Doesn't feel like Jackson Arnold is going to get any more opportunities this year. Whether he's going to remain at Oklahoma and redshirt or whether he's going to redshirt and transfer remains to be seen. I suppose a lot of it depends on how the rest of Oklahoma's season goes. But they're now pretty much riding with a freshman quarterback too. Just like Carolina, only this kid's a true freshman. Remind you again, Lenoris has played in 4.5 football games. So the growing pains are still going to be there. You just came out of a hostile environment. That shouldn't bother you too much anymore. And it shouldn't in this league. It really shouldn't. Yeah, that's life in the Southeastern Conference.
If it didn't bother you last week, which it sounds like it didn't,
right,
then it shouldn't bother you this week.
Right. So, we'll get into those things from Dow, from Clayton. Jack Veltri will join us coming up in just a little bit. But certainly want to hear from you guys, too, on how differently you're approaching this one from a fan/mental standpoint. 803-404-6100. If you get the same type of result, and I think you've got a poll question running on something along these lines, yes?
We do, actually. Yes, let me go ahead and...
I can't. Sometimes they run together, so I apologize for that.
We do have one today. You are correct.
Thank you. I thought so, which is good. Yeah, patting myself on the back.
Good job, Jay Phillips.
Thanks, Elijah. I appreciate you.
Got it pulled up right here. Poll question of the day. At the halfway point of the season, this Gamecocks football program as a whole is heading in the right direction, in the wrong direction, or still don't know. 51.6% say in the right direction, 9.4% say in the wrong direction, 39.1% still don't know.
I'm leaning right direction with what is it? I don't know. Or
there's an idea. Yeah.
Can I say I still need to see more? Is that the same?
Yeah, still
thought?
Don't know. Yeah, you still don't know.
Yeah, I want to see a little more. But yep. I'm leaning. I saw them get better last week.
I will say my version of still don't know is more on the side of can you take advantage of more advantageous matchups, right? Because when you looked at the schedule at the beginning of the year, the back end of the schedule is where you thought more of your toss-up games were going to be. A&M, Missouri, both at home. Oklahoma, I thought at the beginning of the year was probably the most gettable SEC road game outside of Vanderbilt that you had. But even Vanderbilt is not a cupcake game because Vanderbilt has proven to not just have a pulse, but be kind of good at the whole football thing, which feels weird to say on the surface. But, I mean, look, you take care of business against Oklahoma, team I think you're better than. You split A&M Missouri, very doable. You win the coin toss game against Vanderbilt. You take care of business against Wofford. Then you're 7 wins going into a rivalry game at the end of the year where anything can happen. Where the last time you were there, you won. Yep. So it's not impossible to go to Clemson and win. As a matter of fact, I mean, outside of Virginia Tech, you'd be the one of the teams in the Clemson's schedule outside of Georgia at the beginning of the year that has a little bit of a pulse, especially if you go into that game with 7 wins. So anything can happen at that same juncture. So look, if you're still in the position to go 8-4 at the end of the year, I think your program's going in the right direction based off what happened last season.
803-404-6100. Chime in on that. We have some breaking news on the story we ended yesterday's show with about ethical behavior with certain penalties in college football. So I'll give you that. We'll have some sound from the coordinators and Jack Veltri coming up, talking more Gamecocks in about 15 minutes. It's the Wednesday Postgame Show.
Quick word to my friends over at Prize Picks. Look, been talking about getting in on the football action all season long, how you can cash in on your football knowledge with my friends over at Prize Picks. They offer an array of different games and different modes that maybe can't get anywhere else. Like they also have Flex Play, which means if you can still cash out, if your lineup isn't perfect, you can still double up your money, even if one of those picks doesn't hit. They also have injury insurance, which is one of my favorite things about Prize Picks, is that even if a player goes down in the first half, not going to punish you for it. You can still be able to win your money and get that back, even if a player goes down in the first half. And it's a quick withdrawals, 15 minutes or so every time I withdraw my winnings over on Prize Picks. And with the basketball season coming up, don't forget to take advantage of the free square involving Anthony Edwards with the season tipping off later this month. Go ahead and use promo code 1075GAME on Prize Picks.
Yes, obviously that message kind of starts with, Coach Beamer kind of give us always, it's all three phases, first and foremost. But obviously I have a chance to speak to our guys about just how we need to play the game every single way. I mean, every single down. It's a one play at a time. It's a process that we continue, that won't change. But we definitely understand what's going on and what kind of team we're facing, and very similar football teams and however you want to look at it. But you definitely want to go out there and play every down, and it's definitely one play at a time like it is every single week.
Gamecock defensive coordinator Clayton White on preparing for what many expect to be a defensive battle at Memorial Stadium in Norman on Saturday morning/afternoon. Welcome back in. Jay and Elijah, the postgame show coming at you. 40.5. That's the over-under number on this one. Elijah is still looking for bookmakers who will allow him to go under 30.5.
Flirting with it.
You know, get the big bonus.
30 sounds good. I think this one can hit right at 30.
17-13?
17-13 feels delicious.
Yeah, this defense is we asked this question last week. At what point do you ask this defense to do more than it's capable of? Now, that's somewhat of an open-ended and rhetorical question because I don't really know what the limitations are, and I wouldn't place any limitations on them. The best thing about this defense, in my opinion, is the amount of quality depth that it has because it does allow you to do so many more things. And to me, that's what great college teams have. And we talked about that a bunch. I'm not breaking any news here. But this defense not only has some great frontline dudes, but it goes deep. And it allows, at least at certain spots, it allows Clayton to be more creative, a little more bold at times in terms of what he wants to do. And you're seeing the rewards. I just gave you all some numbers if you just tuned in. Again, defensive stats, just a few. Gamecocks, 10th in sacks. 12th in turnovers forced, 15th in tackles for loss, 16th in yards per play allowed through 6 games, including 4 games in the Southeastern Conference. And 3 of them against top 10 teams at the time you played them, and 2 of which are still in the top 10. So you're doing all right, man. You're doing all right.
Doing really well.
But you're going to have to find a way. You scored 33 points on LSU. You scored 25 points on Alabama. You scored 24 offensive points at Kentucky.
Did get a pick 6.
And again, you just had a miserable day against Mississippi. I still think that game is more of an outlier, more of an anomaly than what we saw. But, look, if they play 10 times, does Mississippi win 7 of them? Maybe, probably. I don't know. But did they win by 24 every time? No chance.
Shouldn't.
No chance.
Yeah.
But this weekend you play another very good defense, and we'll get some Oklahoma numbers in a little bit. But, can you go score those points and then still have this defense hold Oklahoma under 20? I think that's got to be the goal, right? You got to keep and you should be able to do that. I mean,
yeah,
Oklahoma
certainly
was dreadful last week. They were Tennessee. Like, does Tennessee – Pierce is better than – Pierce would start pretty much anywhere.
He'll be a top 10 pick at the, latest.
But you look at what Pierce is doing, and you compare it directly to Kennard or Stewart, and you say, yeah, he's better than them, but it isn't like he's, lapping the field on them, if you will. No. My point being, we saw what Tennessee's defense did to Oklahoma as well. I'd like to think, and I could be wrong, Elijah, you study more of these numbers than I do. I feel like South Carolina's defense and Tennessee's defense are rather comparable from top to bottom.
Certainly, yeah. If anything, with the way your secondary has played at times this year in terms of being able to force turnovers, that you've been more advantageous of a defense than Tennessee's, right? I mean, Tennessee was able – I don't say Tennessee forced Oklahoma into some turnovers, but Oklahoma turned the ball over against Tennessee, if you're catching my drift. Oklahoma's offense will do that. They will turn the ball over on their own merit. But I think it's a very comparable defense. Mm-hmm. Tennessee has a very strong pass rush. They are too deep across their entire defensive line. The linebacking core is versatile, led by a rangy middle linebacker, which Keenan Pili for Tennessee out for the year. He tore his ACL against Florida. And then your secondary is advantageous in terms of being able to make plays and pick the ball off. And I think you actually might have an edge over Tennessee in the secondary with how well your secondary's played and how much improved guys like Judge Collier have been, Nick Emmanwori's been in coverage. So really, you have a very comparable defense to Tennessee. And Tennessee held them to basically 9 points until garbage time.
Right. And in Norman.
In Norman.
So,
in a very big game.
And I'll say, in a game that was a lot more magnified with intensity, emotion, importance, Oklahoma's first Southeastern Conference game, all those kinds of things. So, again, it's, it's a roadmap of sorts, which is a term we've used a couple of times this year. How much does that play into what Carolina does? Don't know. We'll talk more about that with Jack coming up in just a bit. Before we do that, though, let me get to that breaking news that we have for you. This came down about 10 minutes before we hit the air. The NCAA today has closed the loophole that Oregon used at the end of the Ohio State game with 12 men on the field. Let me just read verbatim. This is from the AP. In a release Wednesday, the NCAA issued a new rules interpretation on how to handle a penalty for 12 players on the field in the final 2 minutes of either half. If the defense has 12 players actively participate in the down, the offense can choose, along with the 5-yard penalty, to have the game clock reset to the time that had been displayed at the snap. No time change will be made if there were 12 players, but one of them was attempting to leave the field and did not affect the play. Now, Dan Lanning put 12 men on the field on purpose, and they actively participated. Elijah was right yesterday. I know Dan Patrick said this too. At that point, brother, you better put 15 out there, because on 12, especially if they're good and Ohio State is excellent, they still might score on you. They didn't.
The freedom of having a free play can be a powerful drug.
But as I was saying to you, the difference is with 12 sometimes it might be hard for everybody to spot. And again, it is not the job of the officials to alert anyone to anything. And the officials will not throw that flag until the ball is snapped. They don't throw it ahead of time. It's up to you, the defense, as this says here, to either get somebody off, or if you're doing it on purpose, okay. Now the offense can put that, 3, 4, 5, whatever seconds back on the clock. How much of a difference does it make? Well, it would have given Ohio State one more play.
At least put him in field goal range.
Because my boy, and now I've just his name just got out. The quarterback,
Will Howard.
When he slides, he's
sliding, thinking he's got like 3 seconds, and can get up and call time.
Yeah, and he did not. He did not. So the game ended, but it took 4 seconds off the clock. So Ohio State would have had 4 more seconds to play with on that subsequent snap. That's a big deal in that kind of game. Now, does it still get them in a place where they can kick a field goal? There's a lot of other what ifs.
College kickers are a thing, yeah.
But nevertheless, it's rather rare for the NCAA to do this midseason.
It's rather rare to see them act fast on anything.
Yeah. Steve Shaw, of course, the former SEC coordinator of officials who now does it at the national level. Quote, football is a very dynamic game. Occasionally, there are specific situations where committing a penalty can give a team an advantage. A guiding principle of the NCAA Football Rules Committee is that there should be no benefit when a team commits a penalty. So, as I say, I had zero problem with what Dan Lanning did. It worked.
Because there's still some risk involved with what he did.
There is risk, and it is within the rules to do this. He found the loophole. Good for him. I got more problems with, say, what Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss are doing. And by the way, we're not going to come back around on that. So, Elijah, hold me to this.
Yes.
During today's show, we have been so busy with our local stuff that we did not get into the statement that the University of Mississippi football program released about supposed fake injuries.
That is more of an ethical concern.
Yeah.
I think Oregon's is more gamesmanship.
Yeah, and it worked.
That's more gamesmanship. I don't think that one has anything to do with ethics. The Ole Miss thing, a little bit different.
But we've been so busy locally that we didn't get into that, but we will. We will, because they have released a statement on that, and it's interesting, as we might say around here. Meanwhile, we'll talk more Gamecocks on the other side of the break. Our buddy Jack Veltri on the beat for Gamecock Central will be with us. You're listening to the Postgame Show.
Holidays are coming up. Thanksgiving next month, Christmas the month after that. I know a lot of you have weight loss goals that you'd like to achieve before that, and really no better time than now to join Columbia's Secret for Weight Loss. Look, Paul Grant and Shaylin over at Columbia's Secret for Weight Loss did wonders for me in helping me achieve my weight loss goal faster than I could have imagined reaching my weight loss goal. Look, I've reached a 20-pound weight loss goal in less than a month's time, and they can do the same for you because if it's anything like my experience, they're really good hands-on teachers to be able to tell you how your body burns fat and quite literally giving you the secret of losing up to 1 pound of unhealthy fat per day. That's why they call it Columbia's Secret for Weight Loss. They're pretty good at what they do, and they can get you to reach your goal as efficiently as possible, the same way they did for me. And if you'd like to get a free consultation, just give them a call, 803-824-4210. Talk to them for a little bit. Tell them about what your goals are, and they'd be happy to help you out. Again, 803-824-4210, or go to ColumbiaSecretForWeightLoss.com. Results may vary.
Talking Gamecock football ahead of a trip to Norman, Oklahoma Saturday. We'll have all-day coverage for you here on the game. Let me make sure here. Hang on. Let me go to the official results. 7:30 pregame show.
You pull that right out of the printer?
Nah, somebody
sounded like
printed it.
You did.
Somebody printed it for me. I don't have the wherewithal like Dave to print stuff.
He is the printing master. All printing jobs must go through him.
And then some.
The ultimate gatekeeper of printing.
That's right. 7:30 pregame, 12:45 kickoff, I think officially. And A lot of folks will be out at O'Hara's again.
Yeah, as they should.
Well, watch party.
It's a good place to watch a game.
There you go. Which one am I supposed to get?
That would be the Steelworker, my friend, with the corned beef.
Okay.
Always the corned beef. The corned beef there is fantastic.
Gotcha. Our good friend Jack Veltri covering the Gamecocks. Busy this week, man. Got basketball news, got football news, got baseball scrimmages. Jack, you sleeping? How you doing?
Man, I'm doing all right, guys. It's definitely been busy. Luckily, I'm not covering the baseball scrimmage today. We've got Wes out there instead, but it's certainly been busy, absolute grind, and we're hey, this is what you sign up for, though, right?
Now you're going to send Wes out to cover baseball. He knows it's not the Braves, doesn't he?
Yeah, I don't think there's no Travis d'Arnaud lookalikes out there. I don't think, or anyone like that. So
right,
he's got to deal with covering the. Hopefully, we're talking about the College World Series Gamecocks this year.
Yeah, well, it's listen, the league is loaded, and all you did was add one of the more storied programs in all of baseball. So there's that. But we'll discuss that at a later time. Jack, you've been down at the facility the last couple of days. Give us the temperature right now. I mean, Shane was all smiles. A lot of times the public face is good, but that was a tough loss the other day. How's the mood?
I would say it's a little kind of like last week where it's a little somber. You're coming off another loss. It's a tough feeling. You're there, and you're close in that game, and you just couldn't get the job done. And so I think that's kind of the mood. But also at the same time, I asked a few of these guys this week, like, how close do you feel like this team is to getting over that hump of these close losses and finally coming through and playing that complete game that you so desperately want? And they've said multiple times, it's like, quote, like they're on the doorstep. They just need to knock it down. So I definitely could see that being the case this weekend. I think they are a better team than Oklahoma. The records might not indicate it, but I mean, go watch the tape and stuff. I think South Carolina had a lot of chances to win that Alabama game. They need to be able to finish, I think, is what they're looking to do this weekend.
Yeah, certainly. And one way to be able to finish is avoid a lot of the turnovers on offense. And I know Dow Loggins today went into some pretty good depth in talking about some of the things that they're doing to try to avoid some of these costly turnovers, because some of them are things like, fumbles at the mesh point of a read option, or fumbling in the backfield, or, with decision making. But with what you saw on Saturday from this offense, and maybe with an extra emphasis, I know they emphasize it every week, of protecting the football, going against a defense who is top 10 in the country in forcing turnovers, what's kind of your expectation on what we can see in terms of the growth that this offense can take in terms of, taking care of those fundamentals?
Yeah, look, Elijah, it's going to be a real battle. I think South Carolina it's going to be a tough task because Oklahoma's got a really good defense. I don't know if you can fix the sacks overnight. I don't know if you could fix the pass protection overnight. What you can better fix is how you take care of the football, right? On these sacks that Lenoris has been taking lately, you go back to Saturday against Alabama, the two that were the issue were the one where he was getting brought to the ground in the second quarter. He tries throwing the ball away. It ends up being a fumble. Alabama recovers. And then the fourth quarter, the more critical one, was the fumble that he had on the fake handoff to Rocket Sanders, and Alabama recovers and goes down and scores right after you had an O'Donnell Fortune interception in the end zone with a 5-point lead. So that is kind of what I'm seeing, is that they need to clean that up. Look, I think you kind of just live with the sacks at this point. In my opinion, you try to grow from it and be better. But if they keep happening, you got to be able to take care of the football and not give a team like Oklahoma, who's kind of struggling on offense, you don't want to give them any short field chances to score.
Jack, how much change can we anticipate from what Carolina wants to do offensively? Elijah and I were just talking. You scored 24 points at Kentucky on offense. I know 31 overall, but 24 on offense, 33 against LSU in a game where Lenoris was out for a bit, 25 the other day, despite turning the ball over 4 bleeping times. Is this offense better than we think it is? Do we anticipate tweaks, or is Dowell, from what you heard today, what you're hearing from the guys, now into the flow of what this thing can really be?
Yeah, I think we saw a lot of what this offense can be at its, I don't want to say full potential, because I feel like they still have a little bit of room to grow. But overall, I thought last week was so much better. It really comes down to one, like I said before, protecting the football, but also using what you have in your arsenal of weapons, right? You have a quarterback that is a real capable dual threat who can throw the deep ball when he needs to. He can hit his smaller windows, and he can also run the football effectively. And that's also what we need to see from a guy like Rocket Sanders. So I do think there is wiggle room for more improvement this weekend and maybe more points potentially. But again, it's easier said than done, considering the fact, like you said, Jay, earlier, and Elijah, they're going up against a really good defense in Oklahoma.
I was mildly surprised, Jack, that 10 guys caught passes the other day. It's good. You're still spreading the ball around, but I might have thought by now, where we are literally at the halfway point of the season this week, that maybe that focus would have been narrowed in terms of who's catching balls. Should I be surprised?
I think you should be a little bit, but I think it also means like there's other guys that are capable of catching the football. It's a double-edged sword, right? Like, obviously you'd want someone to step up and be that clear and away wide receiver one and stuff. At the same time, though, it's like, hey, you have these other weapons out there, and it means you just have more at your disposal. So take it like Mazio Bennett, for instance. I think he's kind of grown into that WR1 type of player for South Carolina. And then you have a guy like Nick Carver, who has slowly started to emerge as this bigger deep ball threat for South Carolina. And you have Gage Larvin coming into the fold. So I think ideally you'd like to have that true number one guy and then those other key components at receiver in your offense. But it's kind of just been like we've said for months now, it's by committee. Some guys are going to have bigger day than others. In other games, it's going to be more other guys having those big days. So it really just depends. But I feel like we're starting to see Mazio be that number one guy for them. And assuming Jared Brown comes back this week, we'll see. We haven't heard much yet this week. We'll find the availability report. But if he comes back, that's another guy that we had thought was a wide receiver one for this team. But we'll see how he comes back.
The Nick Harbor angle, I think, is very fascinating because I think we've been waiting so long to be able to see him be a consistent contributor. And the catch he made against Alabama was remarkable, not just considering the time and score and just the situation of the game, but to be able to high point that ball, get a foot in, and be able to possess the football enough to where an official can on replay say that you never lost control of it, make that call that a catch, is a big-time wide receiver move. And that's one thing I think this coaching staff has been trying to get Nick Harbor to do, is to be able to make those type of receivers plays, because everyone on God's green earth knows the guy can run, but can he make wide receiver plays? Based off what you've been watching in terms of the way he's running routes and the people that you talk to, is there a more sense that they're probably a little more confident to be able to get him involved more in the offense?
Yeah, I definitely think that's the case, Elijah. With Dowell today, he was talking about how Nick has had 2 fantastic weeks of practice. And look, these guys know his time's coming. Like Mike Furr, I think when we spoke to Nick yesterday, Mike Furry was yelling at him on the sideline saying, like, hey, the ball is coming your way. The ball is coming your way. And look at what happened. It ultimately did. So there is this more sense of, like, hey, like Nick over the last few weeks, you look at his numbers, like the targets are coming his way. He notably said he hasn't dropped a pass this year. It's just been can he find that big play, that consistency that we've all been looking for from him? And he kind of did against Alabama. Can we see more of that? I think it just depends. Every week's going to be different, but it is a good sign to see Nick getting a little bit more involved in this offense and getting more comfortable. When speaking of this week, he really sounded like, hey, like there's going to be more coming, and I'm looking forward to seeing what that might look like for South Carolina.
Jack, good stuff as always, buddy. We appreciate you. We'll do it again soon.
Yeah, appreciate it, guys. Have a good one.
That's our good friend Jack Veltri, Jack T. Veltri, to follow along on Twitter, GamecockCentral.com. And Jack compiling all the stats for our picks as well. You're doing all right.
We're in a tight one, yeah.
Yeah.
We're all still looking up at Terry Ford, a sentence I don't know if a lot of people have said in their lifetimes.
Yeah.
We're looking up at Terry Ford
or
in those standings.
Comfortable with either. But
yeah.
It's a whole other thing. Appreciate Jack's time. We'll hear from Nick Harbor on the other side. You're listening to the Postgame Show.
I feel it's coming on real good. Haven't dropped the ball yet, so it's working out. I guess haven't got that many targets, but anytime the ball comes, just gotta catch it because you don't know how many targets you're gonna get that game. So just gotta make the most of every opportunity. That's what I feel like I'm doing.
Nick Harbor on where he is at the halfway point of the season. He, Mike Furry, Dowell Loggins, Shane Beamer, thousands and thousands of fans want to see Nick Harbor become more involved. Brilliant play. Before we talk anymore, let's get his thought. By the way, hi, welcome back in, Jay and Elijah. It's the Postgame Show. Hi. Cut number 16 on our list. Here's Nick on that big touchdown.
So first, I think it was like 1st and 10. We had just got a penalty face mask. So why not take a shot? And Coach Ferry was yelling at me on the sideline. He was like, "Run! You about to get this ball." I looked at 16. 16 looked at me. I'm like, all right, it's time to go make a play. That's the moments where, you dream of, go make a play for your team, big game, Alabama, trying to get the upset. And I'm like, just throw it up to 8. Good things happen.
If that kind of thing continues, and that's why it's funny in the first cut that you heard coming back in, I hadn't dropped the ball yet. There was a lot of people. Maybe one of the again, nobody's really saying it definitely was, but he's struggling with catching the football on a consistent basis. Probably some truth to that when you've been asked to switch positions and do so at this level of football. But that was a hell of a play the other day, man. There's no other way to put it. And that's a play that big timers make. And I'm not sure you always teach that. There's just a lot that can be innate there. Get your foot down. Know what you got to go do. Box your man out. Again, that ball was thrown. And obviously Nick Harbor is a huge target. But like you said, I looked at 16. 16 looked at me. I like the fact that they seem to have a little chemistry going there.
Yes.
That's a positive sign. Lenoris put it where only Nick could get it. Nick made sure his man couldn't touch him. Nick made sure his man could, look, you get bumped in the end zone. Now, again, it's in I forget how far that ball was thrown. That's a 15-yard penalty. There's just not going to be a ball at the 2. Or in the end zone in college, do you get the ball? No, you still get 15 yards.
15 regardless.
Yeah. I wish college would change that, but they won't.
Talk about a loophole in the rule. If I'm a cornerbacks coach in college football, if I'm like, if you guys got beat by a step and somebody's, they're throwing it deep, I'm just yanking the receiver down, take the 15 yards.
Absolutely. Even if it's an automatic first down, it's still not nearly as punitive as it is in the NFL. But I digress. So, more of that, please. And I know that now that listen, how on the radar was Nick Harbor already? That's one question I have, and I'll ask you that. How on the radar was he already before before that game started Saturday? On the radar of the defenses.
Aware of how fast he is, but I would not. If I'm, Kane Womack going into that game, I'm not doubling him or anything like that. I want to make him prove that he can beat me deep.
Right. Now that he had just even that one, how differently is he different? Because I'm with you. I still don't think he's doubled, but if I'm Dowell, I got to draw up more plays to him.
Or at least take another shot early in the game to make another defensive coordinator say, wow.
Yeah.
Maybe they're not playing around. Yeah. Maybe they have this weapon and they're going to use it and they know how to use it.
I just think you got to. I just think you got to do it a couple of times.
Get some safeties on notice, Make them have to make them have to account for his presence on the football field.
Yeah, I just think you got to go do it a couple of times.
Yeah. Oh, certainly. The threat of Nick Harbor can sometimes be better than the bomb pass to Nick Harbor, right? Because that's how you can open up the field to more of those 16-play, 85-yard drives that you had the luxury of concocting in that Alabama.
Because we've talked a lot about it can only be a decoy for so long if he's not going to be actively involved in a game, and even how you're actively involving him in the Southeastern Conference, coordinators are going to go, listen, nah. But if he beats you on something, if he proves you can go do something, and that's why, you got to go do it again. But again, we talked about before Saturday, at least, it felt like a lot of the things to Nick Harbor were crossing routes and at short distances, which is fine in and of itself if he can get himself going into open space. But asking him to basically do things that slot receivers do might not be in his best interest. But at the same time, we've talked about looking over your shoulder, having a guy in your face, trying to catch that football. You know, what he did the other day was a jump ball where he was turned to the pass.
Yep.
Very different scenario. And, again, more of that can be – but there's only so many places where you can go – you don't get to go run down to the 25 and turn around and wait for the ball to come to you.
No.
In the corner of the end zone, you can.
Yeah, where you can, to use the basketball term we used earlier, you can box somebody out a little bit, and have it be one-on-one, kind of like you're playing jackpot in the backyard with the homies.
Find ways to do that and make an Oklahoma defense that's very good really have to account for him and then figure out, and I'm not telling Dowell how to run his offense, but I guess we're saying it more like everybody else does. Now that Dowell has done it, they all know it too. Like, okay, good. Now we've taken that next step too.
One of the best players on that Oklahoma defense, Billy Bowman, a safety, who's really good at picking off passes and reading quarterbacks' eyes. Make him have to account for something extra.
Yeah. A lot going on around college football. Get into some national stuff and more from Dowell Loggins when the postgame show returns. How you watching what you watch, whether it's your favorite football team, basketball season's coming up, baseball playoffs are well underway. Holidays will be here soon enough, from parades to your favorite movies and shows, maybe even just putting on that fake fireplace. And I'll do it all better with integrated media. Serious about that. Or, you know what, great gift ideas from integrated media too. Telling you, even pro swing ideas. If you want great golf simulation, they can do that for you too. Snapdragon Court out in Chapin, world headquarters of integrated media and pro swing for what it's worth. But the best thing for you to do is call them, get them into your house. They can do a golf simulator for you if you want them to. Now, that's a whole different animal, but they can do it. 803-948. I'm not kidding either. 803-948-8327. The very best in-home theater, indoors or outdoors, can be yours. Get them into the house, brighten the holidays and the rest of your life with my good friends at Integrated Media. 4 o'clock on this Wednesday afternoon. Welcome back into the Postgame Show. Along with Elijah Campbell, I'm Jay Phillips. We're inside the Herndon Chevy Studios in downtown Columbia. Wherever you might be, we appreciate you being with us. Coming up, get into a few thoughts on some hoops as SEC tip-off continues over in beautiful Hoover, Alabama.
Sure.
The southern suburbs of Birmingham. That's an English way to say it, but with an Alabama accent. Birmingham. Anyway. Gamecock women winning comfortably last night, exhibition game in Memphis. I'm going to go out on a limb.
Okay.
You ready for this?
Be careful.
Joyce Edwards is going to be really good.
Pretty good.
She's going to be really good.
Double-double.
In the first half.
With ease.
She's going to be really good. She got moves, man. You see it at the collegiate level. You see some highlights, but she I mean, that's what Dawn does. I get it. And the thing is, Joyce grew up like a half hour away.
Oh, yeah. The remarkable thing about it.
I mean, she's
one of many great local products.
It's crazy. It's just, I mean, you know, I know Tiffany's from Charlotte. I mean, Asia was from here. And, you know, Joyce is from here.
Malaysia's from here.
Malaysia's from here. Dutch Fort. I know you're screaming at your radios, and again, this is what I do. I can't even remember my own kids' names. I'll think of it in a second.
Can't confirm.
Damn it. Anyway.
Who this man?
Stop screaming at your radios. It's hurting my ears, and I can't hear any names. I'll get it in a second. Anyway, yeah, a lot of local products. God, that's good. I know you weren't here when she played because it was a few years ago, and I'm sorry. Again, stop screaming at your radio.
Someone's going to be so mad they're going to pull over, walk into the studio, and slap you as hard as they can. And then it'll come to you.
But anyway, Joyce is going to be good. But Dawn is speaking today at...
Which means I think Dawn probably already spoken to the players.
Yeah, right around now.
But I want to say Joyce finished with, 17 and 13?
Something like that.
I mean, and like you said, had the double-double at halftime, 10 and 10. She's going to provide some lineup flexibility too, man. That's exciting. That might be the most exciting part about Joyce. Not just that she's really good. She's going to provide some flexibility with that lineup that a lot of teams in the country aren't going to be able to handle.
It's, I mean, look, I was surprised. A little surprised that there wasn't more love shown toward Gamecock players on the preseason all-conference team yesterday.
I am very surprised about that.
I don't know if that's sort of a byproduct of we just know they're good as a team. So
I think it's a byproduct of people looking at stat sheets
and
not watching enough of the games to be like, this person's really good, and if they played on any other team in the SEC, they'd be their leading scorer.
Right.
I think there's a lot of that going on.
Yeah. It's going to be an interesting season, but man, Joyce Edwards can play. She can play.
She'll be on one of those lists at the end of the season. Yeah. I feel pretty good about that one.
I'm going to get this eventually, and my Elena Coates.
You knew that.
I feel better now. I'm sorry.
I can see the anguish on your face.
It's just there's so many names, and I'm like, I know. I mean, I see her playing. I can see her right now.
You're the epitome of that meme of the two guys at the bar, and you're like, what a week, huh? And the person going, Captain, it's Wednesday.
It is Wednesday.
And today it is in fact Wednesday.
Elena Coates. Again, thank you all for screaming. Enough of you finally made it through. The vibes made it to the studio here. Sound does not travel as quickly as light. And with all of you screaming at your radio the way you did, the name Elena Coates finally got to me. Oh, speaking of which, did you see who's out for the remainder of the preseason and doubtful for the start of the regular season because of knee inflammation?
Oh, surely it's not Kawhi Leonard.
Just play it again. I'll tell you who it is. Yep.
It's that guy.
Poor Kawhi.
Is he ever going to play basketball again?
I don't know, man. But when he does, he's really good at it.
He does. It's awesome.
You know, I want Spurs Kawhi back.
When he played.
Yeah, and they won.
See, you know how you know you're a really good basketball player? Is if LeBron James is shooting free throws in the NBA Finals, and he looks over and sees you checking in, and he looks back at the camera, and you can tell he's saying something that is not FCC appropriate because you are coming back into the game.
Yep.
I think that's all. Whenever Kawhi does ultimately get into the Hall of Fame, because he will.
He will. Well, I think he will.
No, he will. Yeah, he will. He won 2 titles and won MVPs for both those title teams.
Yeah.
On different franchises.
And listen, the Spurs won that one, but to take Toronto,
yeah,
where they don't even have basketballs.
They're just made of snow.
They don't even. Yeah, they had to import all of the basketballs to Canada. The Canadians are like, does he play hockey?
Rumor has it some of those players were former Maple Leafs.
Right. It's just tall people in Canada that they couldn't play for the Maple Leafs anymore. We don't make
all
skates.
Former Maple Leaf defenders.
We don't make skates past size 14, so you
have to play basketball.
You have to play basketball because they make sneakers that we'll also get from America. So yeah,
won a title.
Yeah, they did, man. Well, and that's when I joked. You know, when I remember asking Pearson, I was like, that's when he said Pascal Siakam. I'm like, no, give me a real name of a person. He's like, you're just making up sounds. I was like, no, he's really good. I was like, whatever.
What about your boy Lucius Fox?
That's easier to say. Pascal Siakam, that's just making up sounds.
It might be easier to say, but Lucius Fox is not a real basketball player.
That's too bad. I don't know.
That's Morgan Freeman's character from The Dark Knight.
Oh, yeah. Okay. You know why I like that movie? Morgan Freeman's great, and Qui-Gon Jinn is in that movie.
He is.
Who knew that Qui-Gon Jinn taught Obi-Wan Kenobi, Anakin Skywalker, and Bruce Wayne how to be a superhero?
He's basically the Greg Popovich of
so that's pretty good.
Action film.
Yeah. I wish that the Lucius Fox character was in more, like, I wish he was in the Michael Keaton movies too, because he's in the comics, and Bruce Wayne needs him, but I was glad to bring him back in. Anyway, all right, good stuff. Now that I've gotten everything back on track.
Now that you're back at your mental equilibrium after not being able to pull Elena Coates'
I feel
name.
better. I feel better.
We've all been there.
That was going to bother me for a second, and I'm like, in my mind, I'm watching her play basketball, down low, boxing people out, just being better than you, and thinking, man, she's from Columbia too. Like, they got all these girls from Columbia. It's crazy. Or at least from the area.
It's pretty remarkable, though. I mean, really, to have.
Well, this goes back. I mean, I feel like for women's basketball across the Midlands, it's like 80s boys basketball in Columbia. That went from, Ty Corbin and X-Man, and then, Stanley Roberts and Barry Manning and Joe Rett and JoJo English and Marvin Orange. I mean, just all these dudes, man.
A collection of great
talent. I know I'm forgetting some. So, Michael Glover played for Carolina. He's from here.
Well, even that late 90s.
And then BJ a little bit later.
The late 90s South Carolina teams that won the SEC.
Yeah.
Had a lot of local talent.
Well, as I say, George Felton's team that made an NCAA and made an NIT, 4 starters from Columbia one of those seasons. From Columbia.
Right.
And then, Coach Fogler's team, I guess just the one from Columbia in BJ, but 4 South Carolina starters on the team that won the Southeastern Conference and a bench full of South Carolinians. And I like to see what Coach Paris has now with a couple of kids from Columbia.
With a lot of kids from Columbia. The 2 of the transfers you got in from, not from Columbia, but Nick Pringle and Jordan Butler are South Carolina kids that are back in the state. You got a lot of in-state talent on this team right now.
But you got two locals, right? In Colin and Cam.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, it's cool. It's fun to see. It's fun to see. We'll talk some more hoops in just a little bit. One of the things that Elijah and I were talking about today during our meeting, I was like, all right, we got to stop talking this now, and we're gonna save it for air. But just as we talk about national college football stuff, because soon enough here we'll have our rankings out. Ohio State lost the other day. Ryan Day is now 2-7 against top 5 opponents at Ohio State. And, it's Ohio State. Last year, really, I think in the 3 losses to Michigan, they were right there in 2 of them, right? I mean, and even last year, maybe in all 3, they were pretty much right there.
I think last year was really
like didn't they have the ball late? I mean, they had a chance.
Yeah, last year to me was the only one they didn't get like blown out in, because the game in Columbus actually ended up becoming a little bit of a bludgeoning late in the second half, if I recall.
Yeah,
because no one could tackle Donovan Edwards.
The point is, like the last 2 years, they were 11-1 regular season, lost to Michigan, but they're 2-7 in big games with him at the helm in the biggest games, top 5. And I guess that includes a championship game loss. Is that grounds at Ohio State for dismissal? And then, and I'm not saying that it is, and I know, Elijah, you're not saying that it is.
Right.
But there are questions because it's Ohio State. And that becomes, I think, a real legitimate question to ask when you look at a program that, it doesn't run itself. And it's not, I would never sit here and say, oh, all you got to do if you're the Ohio State head coach is show up to work every day. This is not Barry Switzer coaching the Cowboys to a Super Bowl. It does take more than that. It does.
Still remarkable that Barry Switzer won a Super Bowl.
Well, the Cowboys won the Super Bowl. Troy and Emmett and Irvin and an amazing defense and offensive line won the Super Bowl. And Barry Switzer
was along for the ride.
Got to get a paycheck. Anyway, is it grounds for dismissal? And if it is, who is going to go coach Ohio State today? Now, Ryan Day was not somebody that you think, like if Ryan Day were out there right now, is that who Ohio State's going for again? Doubtful.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at the very best coaches with jobs right now, like you and I were saying, like it's not going to, I just don't see that it would be Sark leaving Texas for that job. Not right now.
It would be almost I don't want to say a lateral move, but Texas just has the money.
Yeah, I agree.
And as many resources.
This may be heresy to some. I don't disagree with you overall. Maybe I do a little bit. I don't think there's not a better job than Ohio State. I don't believe there is. Because that school and that community quite literally do everything it takes every year to be what they are. It is not easy to continue to do what they do, but they're always great. Sometimes they are elite. Very, very rarely would you say they are just very good. Not average. In my lifetime have they been good or average. And probably before I was born. They are. Doesn't mean they win a lot of titles, because they don't. It's hard to win titles. Proof that it's hard to win titles. But I don't think there's a better program. So it's always maybe, even if it's just one of those tiny little steps, I feel like it's almost going to be a step up from almost anywhere. Now, again, not a better job.
Yeah.
Now, I put Georgia alongside it. I pretty much put Alabama alongside it. But as we've talked about before, Alabama punches above its demographic weight as a state and as a school, because it's still a small, relatively poor southern state. It's not a big, giant state like Ohio. Alabama has in-state competition. Georgia kind of does too, but Georgia's a big state. Louisiana's a big state with no in-state competition. Texas is just a plain old big state, and so is Florida. But I want to think about it, like who would go coach Ohio State? We'll continue that on the other side. Get into a few other things around the Gamecocks for you, too. Again, both coordinators speaking today. And we got some sound from Lamont Paris. Is the chip still on the shoulder? So a busy Wednesday continuing here on the Postgame Show. Guys, you feeling a little off these days? No matter what facet of life you're talking about, might be time for you to go see Dr. Dan Balknight and his team at the men's clinic. When you don't feel like yourself as you get older, you may start to wonder why. And there could be a number of issues that are affecting you mentally, physically, a little bit of both. Well, don't wait for it to change or go away, because it's really not going to. Instead, go see Dan and his team at the men's clinic. You get that one-on-one consultation that gets to the root of the issues and gets you back to feeling like you used to and like you want to. As I've said many times, no such thing as a one-size-fits-all treatment at the men's clinic. Get to feeling better when you see Dan and his team, who are experts in healthcare for men and dedicated to making you feel like yourself again. All kinds of satisfied patients at the men's clinic. 803-875-MENS. Online, themensclinicsc.com. "20 minutes after 4 o'clock on a Wednesday afternoon. Welcome back into the Postgame Show. Jay and Elijah with you and the Stones. Talking a little college football. Just an interesting thought exercise for a minute here. Ohio State off this week after they lost to Oregon in one of the more thrilling college football games of the year. And again, going back a couple of years to when Oregon in a non-con game at the time went to the Horseshoe and won, and what I thought was maybe the best game of the year that season. Nevertheless, it's another top 5 loss for Ryan Day, 2-7 in 9 top 5 opportunities since he became head coach of the Buckeyes. He's yet to win the national championship. They played for it since he's been the coach, but he's not won a national title. And folks in Columbus.
In a COVID year, which they only played 4 regular season games?
Yeah, they only played a few, and that was really, I honestly was not real big. I mean, if you thought last year that there was committee maneuvering, and there was, it was worse that year, in my opinion. But let's not get into that because that'll get me mad. And I already got mad once today. Well, not mad, but I got mad at myself.
Mad at yourself.
I got mad at myself just a minute ago.
I can almost see the fumes coming out from the back of your head.
That's what happens when you get old, dude. I had a very nice man come up to us at one of our remotes maybe 3 weeks ago. I forget exactly when, at Columbia Craft. And he was older than me. And he said, "Hey, why do you say you're old?" And I was like, I don't know, just self-deprecating humor. I was like, it's just, And I said, I am older than I used to be.
And you're the oldest one on the show.
It's true. And then he said, and I don't want to say how, but he said, well, I'm so-and-so, and I listen to y'all all the time, but I just want to tell you, you're not old. I was like, well, thanks.
In the grand scheme of things.
I appreciate it. So, I guess I shouldn't always say that, but as you get older, that's all. There's a lot up here, man. And sometimes I got to find ways to pull it out.
Brain's like a memory card.
Yeah.
Can't keep everything.
No, you can't,
Not
man.
forever.
It's in there somewhere.
Storage space can become a little more limited as time goes on.
That's right. So, I don't know. Again, it's just interesting to me because, like I say, and I mean this complimentary, Ohio State is a fantastic program. Kids dream of playing for them. When they need to go out of state to get, that elite guy here or there, they can and they do. NIL will never be a problem for them. They are the most popular sports entity in their state. Certainly more popular than the Browns. Yeah, the Bengals have some fans and the Reds have some fans, but I think Ohio State, it's like Georgia football.
Pretty much.
I would say the number one entity in Atlanta is Georgia Bulldog football, followed very closely by the Braves, but nevertheless, if the Braves were to sadly go away somewhere else, Georgia football ain't going anywhere because it's Georgia.
The state
you can't take the University of Georgia and move it to another city. Well, another state.
Yeah.
Another state.
City, maybe.
But anyway, who's the ideal candidate because if Ohio State were to lose again to Penn State, God forbid to Michigan again, which I do not think will happen.
Oh, it shouldn't happen this year.
If they don't advance,
man.
Into at least the semifinal of the college football playoff, there will be people who say, look, we like Ryan. He's got a nice beard, but
he'd love to know where Lou Holtz is right now.
But it's not working. So Steve Sarkisian, I don't think so. Kirby Smart, absolutely not. Dabo Swinney, absolutely not. You and I were talking. I think Brian Kelly would love that job.
It would look really bad on him to bail on another school like that.
Yeah, but I don't know that he's. I think timing is everything in coaching, and I think that now the timing is bad. When he's left his other jobs, the timing was good. This time it's not.
Somewhat good, somewhat.
And really, you got to kind of leave on top. Now,
job's not finished. It's a job's not finished thing with him at LSU.
And they listen. Everything's in front of them at LSU.
Oh, the last 3 coaches who have had that title have won a national title.
Yeah, they have.
Last
LSU,
3.
I think he's going to get one. I don't know if it'll be this year. I'd said before, year 3, and it's year 3. Maybe I don't know. Maybe. But anyway, so I don't think it'll be Brian Kelly. Think it's
going to be Dan Lanning, because if you didn't take Alabama, why would you take this one? Especially after beating them, and now you're in a conference where you can go.
But that might be why they want him, right? Like, hey, can't beat him. Hire him.
Ohio State would absolutely. If I'm Ohio State, I'm making the call. If I'm Ross Bjork, that's my first call would be Dan Lanning. But I don't think he's taken the job in this hypothetical exercise. If you're just now tuning in, Ohio State did not fire Ryan Day.
No, they did not. And they probably won't. But
even if they fall in like the semifinals of the playoff, I think this machine is so built to last that you can make that breakthrough.
But at some point, they're going to get tired of not, because, again, fair or not, their expectation is to win the national championship every year, and they do have everything in place annually to do so.
This year, they have
do.
the best roster in the country.
Yeah.
I still firmly believe that is the best offense, defense, special teams across the board. That is your best roster in the country.
So, I mean, is it somebody in the SEC right now? Is it somebody in the ACC right now? Is it somebody we're not thinking of? Like Kurt Cignetti we talked about, but he's 63 years old, and I'm not an ageist here, but I don't. And is Ohio State going to go, oh yeah, let's get the mid-60s dude who is having a fluky year at Indiana? That's what they'll say.
Yeah,
I don't know how fluky it is, but that's what they'll say.
Cignetti can coach, but at the same time,
he was 53?
You need somebody younger because you want to keep them for. At Ohio State, they normally do keep guys for a long time.
You would think you were going to hire somebody who's going to be with you at least a decade.
I tell you what might just happen. Right now, the Iowa State Cyclones are 6-0.
Matt Campbell's time has arrived.
Matt Campbell has turned down. He's had his name in the hat for so many big jobs across the country. He has turned all of them down to stay at Iowa State. Since his first year at Iowa State, did the math. He's averaging almost 8 wins a season at a place that is not a football school. Again, they are 6-0 right now. If they win the Big 12, they're automatically in the college football playoff. Not just in the college football playoff, Jay Phillips. They're already a round deep in the college football playoffs. They're already going to be at one of the neutral site games because they get a bye. And that's a really good football team. Let's just say they are the 4 seed. They play the 5 seed winner, which could be, the SEC runner-up. Mm-hmm. And let's say you get in a rock fight and you're able to pull off an upset and they get to the semifinals of the college football playoff. Ohio State's looking at him and they're drooling.
You know what? You've sold me. There's your guy.
That would be your scenario.
There's your guy.
That would be your scenario.
Because he is punching above his weight. I mean, again, they ebb and flow, but it's hard to get talent. And he does a good job of it.
Brock Purdy, Breece Hall.
Yeah. Okay.
They've produced some NFL.
And again, we're not predicting it. I'm not trying to wish it into existence, speak it into existence, or anything like that. It was just when I was reading The Athletic this morning, and they were just discussing. Ohio State's lost. Ryan Day's lost another really big game, and 2-7 in top 5 games is not good.
We make fun of James Franklin all the time for that.
Yeah, but James Franklin, even at Penn State, the expectations are no longer the same annually that they are. Again, there isn't,
or should they be?
No, they shouldn't. They shouldn't. There's only a handful of schools where you should annually have an expectation of winning a national title. And Ohio State's absolutely one. Michigan's not even one of them. Southern Cal's not one of them. Hey, Ohio State, Georgia, I guess Alabama. But now with the change, but I think Alabama still, it's going to be hard for that fan base to ever let go of thinking they have an annual chance.
Well, because now, even though you very well laid out the demographic hurdles that Alabama would have to overcome because of just the
and they've
wealth
always
of the
overcome
state.
them.
Yeah, but like Nike helps out a lot with that now.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
I mean, they get a lot of money from Nike.
Yeah.
More so, I think their apparel contract with Nike is the richest in the country, outside of like Oregon's, which obviously they get gifts from Daddy Phil. Helps them out a lot. Alabama is the next most lucrative one, so. They have a lot of that at their disposal to keep that train on.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, just interesting to look at. But reading that this morning and thinking, okay, it's one thing to be 2-7, but as we ask, when people say, well, you got to get rid of that guy. All right, okay, that's cool. There's step A, but the bigger step now is who gets the gig. We'll come back on the other side. More on the Gamecocks as you get ready for the Oklahoma Sooners. You're listening to the Postgame Show. Tell you about our good friends at Cato's Power Equipment. The fall is finally here. It'll warm up again a little bit, but nothing major. But the leaves are going to continue to be on the ground, the straw, yet the grass will keep growing. Yard work, chores change over the next couple of weeks and months. Get into Cato's for all the latest. Maybe you need a new backpack blower, gas-powered. Maybe you want something that's battery-powered, a little more efficient for you, but also controls a whole bunch of different devices. They can do that for you, too. Anything in between. They're helping you out right now. Maybe you need a new bag attachment. You want to just be really efficient. Cut the grass, bag the leaves all at the same time. They can do that for you. Are you in the business of landscaping? Is your equipment ready for the next big jobs that are coming your way over these next few weeks? Get into the service department at Cato's and make certain they'll get you back up and running really, really quick. Historically located at 4012 West Beltline Boulevard. And learn more about what Ben and the crew are doing at CatosPowerEquipment.com.
From the WIS Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell. The few accidents to get to you that are causing some issues on the roadways. We got one on I-26 westbound between Sunset Boulevard and Exit 110 and I-126 near Exit 108A. That accident has the right lane completely blocked, so a pretty significant traffic jam there. Got other accidents in Richland County on Alpine Road at Windsor Lake Boulevard, Arrowwood Lane at Bush River Road, Clemson Road at Summit Parkway, George Rogers Boulevard at Shop Road, Hughie Street at Blossom Street, and in Lexington County we have more accidents on US 378 between I-26 and North 12th Street, Highway 6 at I-20, Highway 6 near Highway 602 and Platte Springs Road, and Highway 1 at Augusta Road and Pisgah Church Road.
We're branching out today and decided to talk some college football. What the heck, right?
What's that?
Got to live on the edge.
What's that? What's called?
Well, welcome back in alongside Elijah Campbell. I'm Jay Phillips. It's just things like that when we talk about some of the national stuff, just very interesting to me. Did you see what Neil Brown's doing? He got the fans at West Virginia upset with him. So they need to be louder. They were kind of mad at him.
I hate when I go to games and don't yell loud enough to get a stop on third down.
Yeah.
Hate it when that happens.
That's a good job, West Virginia. You think Neil Brown's going to hang around another year?
He should.
They lost.
they let 'em.
They lost to the 2 Pennsylvania schools. They weren't happy about that.
Yeah, losing the backyard brawl doesn't sit well with a lot of
And by 2 Pennsylvania schools, there's more than that, but I mean Penn State and Pitt.
the two they play.
Yeah.
How about that?
If they play Temple, they might win.
If you lost to Temple, you'd have bigger problems afoot.
Or Penn.
Ooh, the Quakers.
I don't know any other big-time Pennsylvania football programs.
Not off the top of my head that I can just pull out.
I mean, there are probably some. I mean, Villanova plays football, but they're not.
Yeah, I was say Villanova, Philly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think Drexel plays football.
I don't think so.
No. I'm trying to think of all the Big Five schools. St. Joseph's probably doesn't.
St. Joe's.
Jameer Nelson was a point guard, not a quarterback.
Who's the other? What's the other big Philly school?
Your Big Five: Villanova, St. Joe's, Temple,
Penn,
and LaSalle.
LaSalle. Yeah, I don't think LaSalle plays.
LaSalle's playing football.
I don't think they play football either.
Fran Dunphy going to coach them too?
Who was the big guy that played for them? Well, you're too young. You don't remember.
Tom Gola.
No, they had a dude back in the 90s that was really good. I want to say, was it Lionel Simmons? The L
Might
train.
ring a bell.
The L train. Did he play at LaSalle?
Gonna look that up. You piqued my curiosity. That is a sports bucket list thing of mine though.
Yeah.
I would love to go watch a Big Five afternoon at the Palestra.
Yeah. All right. Well, don't look it up now because I'm going to need you to do what you have to do over there. Let's get to some more sound from Dowell Loggins. This is a little longer cut, but a lot of folks believe that when if you look at the first half against LSU, Lenoris was playing really well, then he got hurt. But the Alabama game, people are now saying, hey, that was pretty complete. And yes, you had a couple of big screw-ups, but you also had some really big plays. And if you put the whole package together, that was probably Lenoris' best game of the 4.5 games that he has played as a starter in his collegiate career. But here is his offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach on what he saw last week.
What's hard about quarterback is you get defined by turnovers sometimes. I know I brought this up. I was just talking to a couple scouts outside of Peyton Manning had 28 interceptions his rookie year. It took him 7 years to, I think, win a playoff game. But you talk about the turnovers. Once we eliminate those things, I see growth every game he's played. There was a lot of things. You go into Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and you're a 21-point underdog, and you lead a 2-minute drill to have a chance to go down there and tie that thing up at the end of the game. And I thought he saw some things really well. I thought he took another step in the passing game that we needed to take. Obviously, we know what type of athlete he is, but every time I think, every time he gets a chance to go out on the field, and it's the same thing we keep talking about, keep making new mistakes, and there's plenty for a redshirt freshman to make, but we're not in that game without him, and I was really pleased. I'm really pleased with where he's at this point. Like, we've got a quarterback. There's no question in my mind about that. We're going to help this guy eliminate the turnovers, but it's the fine line too, because he made a Superman play when the ball that should have been about an 85-yard touchdown, and made a Superman play. Ball's on the ground. You guys know I went to Arkansas. I'm having flashbacks to Clint Sterner and 8-0 versus Tennessee, like having flashbacks to that. But I remember Coach Fisher's advice when we were in Tennessee, and how we would tell Coach Chow and Coach Heimerdinger and myself, like, don't take away the best part of this player now. Don't take away. There's going to be some sacks. There's going to be some turnovers. As he's young and he's growing, he's got to figure out when the journey is over. But he puts that ball on the ground. He gets away from those guys and throws a great throw down the right sideline. And that's what we're dealing with. We're a very special, talented player that has to learn and grow and go through the only way to grow through this stuff is to go through it. But that play he made, it was a long incompletion on a third down that he came off the bench to go do on a third down. But when you watch that, it gives you see how bright his future is going to be. We got to keep teaching him, hey, this is when the journey's over on the sack, on the turnover on that one. That's on me. That's not me. Like, you guys know, like, when we take sacks, I'm on his butt about you can't take sacks, you can't take sacks. He's trying to do what his coach asks him to do. He's trying to throw the ball away because his coach tells him, don't take sacks. You got to know where your checkdowns are. Climb the pocket, check it down, don't take sacks. So when that stuff happens, to me, that's him learn. It's another opportunity for him to learn and say, hey, I got to know when it's over. When I'm in the grasp, I know what my coach is telling me, don't take sacks and be smart with the ball. But, like, on that, he'll get better with that stuff. So I'm super excited about where he's at.
It's a lot to process. That was a long cut. Again, that was nearly 3 minutes. The individual fan is going to look at and hear that and interpret it a lot of different ways. Well, I don't care how young he is. You know what you're supposed to do. Yeah, it's fair. Others say, yeah, he is young. But he's got to, you can look at it a lot of different ways. And I think it was a real mixed bag performance. Mm-hmm. But I think what Dowell hit on there, listen, you got to accept and appreciate some level of reality here. This young man is not, despite all the hype and everything else, he's not a polished veteran. And opposing defenses know if they can do the right things, they can put him in position to make a mistake. And
they can pressure him.
Yeah.
They know that scouting report's out on him.
We've seen it a lot. I mean, we have. Unfortunately, in a relatively short amount of time, we have. We've also seen, again, some real flashes of individual brilliance. Mm-hmm. He can throw the ball a long way. He can run like the wind when he gets open. He does force defenses to account for him in multiple ways. So, once he gets over that hump, it's going to be a different ball game. I don't know that we should expect that hump to be jumped this weekend because of how good this defense is. I know you were able to watch the Oklahoma-Tennessee game a little more closely. I was out of town that night, actually, at an event with my daughter, so I only got to see bits and pieces. I have not seen it, and I did not watch Oklahoma the other day very much. I watched a little bit of that game, but once it got I was like, I'd rather watch something that's more competitive. Because, I'm outside, like, around the grill with friends and family, and I was like, this game sucks.
Oh, yeah. Well, most of it sucked because Oklahoma just couldn't stop Texas on the ground.
But again,
score.
This Oklahoma defense will see all those exploitable things. And I'll be curious to see what not only Dowell does, because you heard him say there, a lot of those are on me when I'm asking my guy to do something and my guy wants to do what his coach tells him to do and where those fine lines are. But how quickly Carolina can adjust, because I don't even say it's my gut tells me. Oklahoma's going to come right after him. Hey, he's prone to mistakes. That's what Brent Venables will say. He'll fumble the football. He'll get flustered. He'll want to do something, and he'll want to do something that actually is advantageous to us. We need to make him do that as often and quickly as possible.
Yeah. I mean, because what you saw in the game against Alabama is the full scope, right? I mean, you saw how Lenora Sellers in the future will win you ball games. You've also seen how his inexperience can lose you ball games. If there's a play that I have fixated on, it's the fumble after the O'Donnell Fortune interception. That's the one that where I'm thinking, look, your offense is in a groove. You have found a way to be able to move the ball in this Alabama defense. You are seeing something. Dowell was seeing something as a play caller that made him feel confident that they can continuously drive up and down the field. And look, you get deep into Alabama territory, come away with a field goal, then you cut the fourth quarter in half and make Alabama have to get a touchdown and a 2-point conversion. It does change the trajectory of the game a little bit. And that's where I kind of lean on you almost probably should have won at that point with the ball up 19-14.
That's a fair way to look at it.
And that's really the sole reason I think that. I think that was the point where you had them right where you wanted them, and you could have really choked that game out. But also at the same time, you don't get in that position if Lenoris doesn't play that way.
Right.
Lenoris played well enough to engineer drives. It's all you need to ask of a quarterback at the college level. You don't have to be Peyton Manning. You don't have to be Lamar Jackson. Engineer drives. Be able to be relied upon to give your team 10 plays, 70 yards, and a field goal or a touchdown. Don't turn the ball over. And you've seen that he can do that in spectacular fashion. You just got to cut out those turnovers, man. And I think I will say, though, as good as Oklahoma's been at turning teams over this year, really the only teams they've turned over at ridiculous rates are the worse offenses. Mm-hmm. You got to prove you're not one of those worse offenses.
When we come back on the other side, we'll stay with college football. Ole Miss did release a statement on fake injuries. Let's see how comedic y'all think it is when the postgame show returns. 11 minutes in front of 5 o'clock here on a Wednesday afternoon. Do want to remind you that the brand new craft beer card has arrived. What? And wait for this. Now just $59. You can save about $300. Get all the details.
I could save how much?
$300.
That's a lot of dollars.
This piece of paper.
Mucho.
Right here says save around $300. You can probably. I'm not going to do the math for you, but if you go to 1075thegame.com and click on Sweet Deals, you can learn all about it and figure out exactly what the savings are.
Sweels.
But if it's only $59 and it's going to be like $300 worth of stuff, then that's saving around $300, man.
Okay, it's $300 worth of beer or pillows, man. that rules.
Those aren't pillows. So there you go. I would say good luck. You don't need good luck on this one.
No luck needed. Just $59.
Just go buy it.
Yeah.
It's that simple. And I do like craft beer. There you go. Good stuff. So I got two things because there's an addendum to this story since Elijah and I did our pre-show meeting because there's been an SEC coaches teleconference. And in it, Lane Kiffin spoke about this. But before that, you might have missed it, but they did a news dump, in a sense, did Ole Miss on Friday afternoon before their game with Louisiana State. They put out the following statement that I will read to you verbatim. This is, again, released from Ole Miss football. Quote, feigned injuries has become a notable topic in college football, and we realize our program has been part of that discussion. We have been in communication with the National Coordinator for Football Officiating and provided relevant medical information for his review to answer questions about recent injuries. We have also updated the SEC office, and our head coach will communicate with our coaches and players to ensure we conduct ourselves properly and are compliant in this matter, end quote. In their last 3 ball games, LSU included now, there have been 29 injury stoppages for Ole Miss players. So roughly 10 a game. There were 11 in the South Carolina game alone. And they won that game by 24 points. Again, as I say often, take that as you will.
Even stranger.
This is part of what they do. As Shane said in his post game, you could tell he wanted to absolutely explode. And I think if the game had been within 10 points, win or lose, I think Shane explodes. But it wasn't. And you were there, Elijah. You could tell, I want to do. So instead, I think he said 4 or 5 times, I hope those guys are all right. I hope those guys are all right.
Because here's why Ole Miss doing what they do is so unethical. And this is why I'd say it's unethical as opposed to being savvy with the rules. Is because you're abusing the goodwill of people that are assuming that the person's actually injured.
Yes.
Because you can't just say, as an official, you're faking it. Because then you open yourself up to a lot of things that's not very cool.
Right.
Right? And Shane Beamer can't just go to the podium and say, you're straight up faking injuries. Right. Because that opens you up to a lot of things that legally aren't really cool and no school wants to put up with. And the fact that Ole Miss does what they do pretty obviously.
So here's what Lane today. Now again, that statement I just read you was put out on Friday, and trust me, that passed by the desk of Lane Kiffin before being released by the SID. Today in the coaches teleconference, and if you haven't heard, today the NCAA did close the loophole in the 12-man on the field rule that Dan Lanning used to his team's advantage Saturday night against Ohio State, where time came off the clock. Now the offensive team can choose to put that time back on if they see fit. So that loophole has been closed. But today, Lane Kiffin was asked about that play in Eugene. Quote, heard Lanning talk about how much they practice situations. So he capitalized on the situation. We have a scenario where that pops up. It's interesting, though. I find that all the national talk about someone faking an injury, and people shouldn't do that. I'm not saying I don't agree with it, but I just found it interesting. Interesting that everybody thinks this is awesome, that you went against the rules and put more people on the field, but then everybody's upset when faking an injury. So I just found it interesting. End quote from today's SEC teleconference. It's not the same.
I was going to say, I'll take a non sequitur for 500.
Yeah, it's not the same.
Mr. Phillips.
And I think Lane fully understands it. Lane, I told Terry this the other day. Lane knows exactly what he's doing. Mm-hmm. Lane wants you, whoever you are, as long as you aren't wearing Ole Miss blue. Lane wants you to not just get angry about it. He wants you to have the anger force you, especially an opposing coach or player, into doing something stupid because of it. But what Dan Lanning did, and again, it's been a quick loophole to close, you didn't break a rule. You committed a penalty, but you took advantage of some. Like, as you said, Elijah, that's not taking advantage of goodwill. That's taking advantage of a loophole. Lane Kiffin knows he's taking advantage of goodwill, and he doesn't care. And that's the bigger difference. Hour 3 coming up. You wake up in the morning feeling a little stiff, a little just off, neck pain, back pain. Maybe that shoulder after a workout's just not like, you're working like you want it to. Get back in the game with our friends at the Joint Chiropractic Centers. Local owners Janet and Bob Keene been doing it a long time, and they have a very simple goal. They want to improve your overall health. They want to do it affordably. They want to do it conveniently, and they want to make sure that you don't have the same problems happening over and over again. An initial visit, if you've never been, is only $29. It'll get you a consultation. It'll get you an exam and an adjustment, and you never need an appointment at any of the Joint's locations. Never have to worry about insurance. They're open 10 to 7, Monday through Friday, Saturdays 10 to 4. There are 4 locations across Columbia: Harbison, Forest Drive, Roberts Branch off Killian in the Northeast, and Sunset Boulevard in Lexington. Online at thejoint.com. Remember, you don't have to feel bad to feel better.
From the WIS Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell. A few accidents to get to that are causing some issues on the roadways. We'll start with the ones here in Richland County. One on Arrowwood Lane at Bush River Road. Got one on Clemson Road at Summit Parkway. Another one on Hugh G. Street at Blossom Street. And in Lexington County, we have some accidents still causing some traffic backup. However, we do have an accident cleared. That was the one that was on 26 westbound between exit 110 and exit 108. So traffic moving much more smoothly through that area. Still, however, have some accidents on US 378 between I-26 and North 12th Street, one on Highway 6 at I-20, and another one on Highway 6 near Highway 602 and Platte Springs Road, and lastly, one on Highway 1 at Augusta Road at Pisgah Church Road.
It is 5 o'clock news time on this Wednesday. Welcome back in. It's also the final hour of the Postgame Show alongside Elijah Campbell. I'm Jay Phillips. Appreciate you being with us. Gamecock football getting ready for Oklahoma. Shane Beamer spoke yesterday, as did some of his players. We'll hear more from some of the players in just a little bit, including Lenora Sellers. But today it was the coordinators' turns as Clayton White and Dowell Loggins took to the podium. We heard a little bit last hour from Dowell on what he saw from Lenora Sellers last week, and we'll get into a little bit more from Coach. But let's start with the defense right now. And cut number 9 on today's coordinator list, please, Elijah Campbell. We've talked, Oklahoma is struggling to score points. Defense amongst the nation's best. But right now, when you've got an offense that's trying to find itself, how does Clayton White look at that particular aspect of defending the Sooners this weekend?
Don't look at it that way. We look at the personnel. We look at the coaching staff. Seth Luttrell has been a really good football coach, head coach at a couple spots. Coached against him at UNC back in the day, and so I know those coaches are going to get those, get things going, and we just got to do a great job of staying ahead of what we think they're going to do. We got to go out here and tackle. We got to do a great job of staying on top. We got to do a great job with our gaps, gap integrity, run gap integrity, and executing the plan, understanding the patterns and the coverages and all the other details that go into it. So we don't really dive into if they're struggling or not, if they are, but we know that, they're still 4-2. I think they're 4-2 now. So it's a good ball club. In their mind, they probably can be 5-1 or 6-0 knowing them. So don't really look at it that way.
And that's the right approach, obviously. You don't want to go, they're not any good. Can't have players doing that either.
I would love to know what he's thinking, though.
But I think that we've talked about it, too. I think this, Shane, I loved how Shane said this yesterday. He talked about going to Bryant-Denny on Saturday, and he said, we get to go to Memorial Stadium this weekend.
Love that.
I do.
Love that.
Because that's what we said. Going into the Alabama game, you and I were talking about it. There's 80 to 100 kids, that play for Alabama. And there's 80 to 100 kids that play for Oklahoma. And there are thousands that ultimately get to go play there and get a chance to win there. And how it's hard. Carolina came close. You're probably going to be in a tight one this weekend. You should certainly expect to be in a tight one, especially this time around. Expectations, we've talked a lot about this week.
And will for the rest of the year.
Yeah, but you're only a 3-point underdog this time as opposed to 21 points in Tuscaloosa last weekend. Speaking of Tuscaloosa, one more from Clayton White. Cut number 3, please. You played pretty well, had a couple of big plays against you. What did he take away as sort of those teaching moments against the Tide?
Our job is to critique ourselves and obviously analyze and emphasize things that we try to get better at. Obviously, the opening drive, they go down and score a touchdown. That's not the way you want to start on the road. I want to say, obviously, the finish, we blew a coverage. We didn't finish the game, scored 13 points in the fourth quarter. So those are things that you're probably not going to win SEC games. You give up 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, just how the league is built. So that was some things that we was mad about, and we want to make sure that we just continue to finish games, man, and regardless of what's going on. It's just a mindset thing.
Yeah. I think you want to see this is a couple of weeks in a row, obviously, where you were down 14-0. I can't say that this team has had a problem starting games slowly because they haven't. You opened up pretty quickly and played well against LSU.
First drive of the game was going it before that 16-play, 85-yarder was your best of the season.
If I'm not mistaken, what was you scored first at Kentucky. So it's been a mixed bag, but that's what a 3-3 team is. It's a mixed bag of good and bad.
And that's football.
That's life. But you do need to find ways to not put yourself in a deep hole on the road again. So what that looks like this weekend will be interesting. We'll have more from Clayton coming up in a bit. Cut number, where was I, Elijah? Number 15 on today's list, please. Dowell Loggins. Another long cut here, but turnovers are an issue for this team. You turned it over 4 times last week. We talked about it a bunch. Hey, if you're +3 in the turnover department, you're going to win this game. But now you realize, man, if you were even in the turnover department, you win this game. What is the offense doing to stop turning the ball over, especially fumbling the football?
Yeah, well, you start talking about the technique of things. It's not watching the film. It's making sure that one of them is an exchange, that happened. Now, here's what bothers us. The week before, Robbie and Rocket had the same exchange issue. All right, so we talk about repeat offenders. So now you got to take what happened in that situation and correct it. Now, we didn't do a good enough job, obviously, because we had the same exact thing happen the next week with Lenoris and Rocket. So from that standpoint, it's emphasizing that more. We watched the turnovers, and one of them, like I said, was an exchange, and the other one was, I just mentioned myself, overcoaching, not taking sacks. And he's trying to do what his coach asked him to do and throw the ball away when he's in the grasp. So me understanding be a better coach, and then making sure that we get enough. The biggest fear I had when we decided now you talk about more schematically change the offense where there is more quarterback run game. Last year I thought we did a good job of eliminating turnovers. Well, now there's more exchange issues. There's more things going on with zone reads and triple options. So the ball's in jeopardy more naturally. Making sure that we understand that it's strong hands through the mesh with the quarterback. He's got from his back hip to his front hip to make a decision with strong hands in those meshes. And the good thing for Mike Shula helps me some with the QBs, and my experiences with Vince Young and some of the guys I've had his experience with Cam, and you just keep doing it. You keep working it, and it's not secret outside of being good with technique, making sure that you don't do the same mistake twice, which we did. So shame on us as a coaching staff and myself, really, not no one else, to correct that, and then you attack that thing with. Attack it with everything you have to fix that thing, because it can't keep happening now, because we are going to continue to do what we do schematically, and there are going to be there's more ball handling than ever before. So that's part of it, but it can't be. Sometimes you say, hey, that's the cost of doing business. That's not. The ball on the ground one time is too many. So it's making sure that we're putting Lenoris in a situation, that we're practicing the right things, that we're emphasizing the right techniques, and that we're putting him in these situations where sometimes when you go over to ball handling, it's just, hey, it's just it's the running back and the quarterback, and they're doing that, but we're putting guys over there make a read, we're making a second pitch, we're swiping at the ball, we're doing all those things to make sure we put him in a situation to be successful.
Listen, Lenoris talked about it too. In fact, can we play that one real quick, and then I'll comment further?
About
on today's
security
list. Yeah, number 15 on our main list for today, please. Yeah, I know I'm going to sit here throwing curveballs at Elijah, but
I'm catching them.
Yeah, but you know what you're doing. But here's a quick hit for Lenoris on the fumbling.
You obviously have to think about it, but you got to just go out there and play. If they happen, they happen. It's you just got to move on from it. You don't want them to happen, but if you worry about them happening, then they're going to happen. So you just got to go out there and play.
Eventually, it will become second nature. When that day is, I don't know. You and I have already talked about it today. Oklahoma certainly understands that this is an issue for South Carolina, and it's a good-sized issue. I don't want to call it a major problem or stumbling block, but listen, you can do if there are 10 things you can do and 9 of them are good, and the one that's bad is fumble the football late in the game when you're winning on the road, and the team that's losing at home scores and gets everybody all amped up. That's bad.
Yeah, those are just giveaways.
Yeah.
I mean, you're handing points to another team. And one of the reasons why that's so pivotal this weekend too, Jay, is that I think we're in for a rock fight. These are two really good defense. Points are at a premium. You can't be giving away anything right now. Now, if you're hanging 50 on them and they're scoring like 30, sure, you can give them one, whatever. You still don't want to do it.
No.
But this is going to be one of those games where you're going to have to scratch and claw to still win. I think they do, and I think they have enough on offense to be able to move against Oklahoma's defense. But these are just these are freebies, man.
Yeah,
you can't give them more freebies.
You can't give it to them. More football sound from both coordinators coming up in just a little bit. Coach Lamont Paris speaking yesterday in Birmingham as the Gamecocks were picked 11th of 16. We went over the vote of the standings yesterday, the preseason predicted order of finish. But here, cut 26. Is that what I said? Yeah, cut 26. Here's Lamont on, hey, this is what we do.
I've been doing this for a long time. Maybe particularly down here in the Southeast, my name's not sexy. But I went to the College of Worcester. People don't know how to pronounce the name of the university. So it's just, I am who I am. I'm very comfortable with who I am. That kind of was our mantra last year. There was a couple of things. One was earn it. They made that up themselves in the preseason that they wanted to earn it. I feel like they did. But the other thing that they always said, I didn't tell them, was we are who we are, we do what we do. And that's not going to change. I am who I am. I like the guys that I like, and we develop guys the way that we do. And hopefully we rely on the fact that, there's probably a couple teams that wish we didn't have to play the games based on where they're picked. We rely on the fact that we get to play the games to show that maybe the picks just aren't that accurate. But we're looking forward to getting a chance to try to prove that.
It's the second straight year where South Carolina is not as well thought of. Now, look, I think they are certainly more respected.
Definitely.
You don't go. You and I. It's funny, y'all. This morning, Elijah and I were like, it went 12-6, right? So we're trying to find the sixth loss as we just talk on the phone, and they were like, there wasn't one. They went 13-5.
For some, I don't know why. For some reason,
we both did. Yeah, but they're like they were really good last year. It's going to be a different team. This league has never been better. I as someone who's covered it now for well over half my life, and I know enough of the history of Southeastern Conference basketball to feel very confident in saying top to bottom, it was not this good before the league expanded in the early 90s. Occasionally, Tennessee was good. Occasionally, Alabama was good. Kentucky was always Kentucky. That's about it.
Yeah.
That's about it. Hugh Durham took Georgia to the Final Four the year after Dominique left the team.
Irony.
It is, man. It is irony. But it is so deep and talented right now. So many good coaches. Schools are spending money. I think you hear in that cut Lamont saying, cool. Y'all saw last year. And my guys, some of them were here last year. Some of them weren't. But we're ready to go. And you don't catch as many people by surprise, but I do think there's still an element of, there's South Carolina. And that's fair. It's fair. Go do it again. What do I say about Texas in football, Mississippi in football? A lot of things. All right, cool. Go do it again. And I'll say that for Carolina basketball. All right, go do it again.
And you're like, when we talk about the parity of the conference, I did a little nice thought exercise today where I went through each team's roster to kind of give myself a refresher because of all the player movement in the SEC. And I just straight up asked myself, is this team better, worse, or the same in terms of my expectation for them going into the next season with given their roster? 8 betters.
Ooh.
Only 3 worse.
Okay.
8 better, 3 worse, 5. I think they're the same as last year.
Where you have South Carolina?
I have them same, but more fun to watch. But a question mark right there.
Okay.
I don't know if they're better.
I
but
guess
they're going to be significantly
you have
more fun to
Missouri
watch.
better?
Better by virtue of not being any worse. Yeah. And they did, to Missouri's
credit, do worse than Missouri did in conference play last year?
Absolutely not. That is winning 0 games. But what will help you is adding a couple of really good transfers, one being Mark Mitchell from Duke, and then Tony Perkins from Iowa, who was a first-team All-Big Tenner. Pretty good guy.
That played Norman Bates. It's going to...
Yeah.
Talk
about a diverse career. Yeah, is right. 3 of them, as a matter of fact.
Yeah. More basketball in the coming days, but again, tip-off, media days version for basketball, tip-off happening as we speak in Hoover. Real quick, final note on our integrated media headlines of the day. Georgia Tech saying they need, quote, new revenue sources, is going to move its home game with Georgia next year to Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Georgia Tech will receive a $10 million guarantee. This is not a pool of money to be split. This is not playing in Jacksonville when Georgia plays Florida. This is Georgia Tech getting $10 million to move the game to the stadium. So their home game in downtown, moving a few miles from Grant Field, will now have about 80% Georgia fans. That's our headlines of the day, brought to you by Integrated Media. More Gamecock football news coming up.
Absolutely love getting on these airwaves each and every day and talking ball with you all. And I know you guys know ball. You talk ball really well. Well, this season, you can make some money off of your football knowledge with my friends over at Prize Picks. Look, I'm having a blast so far this season. Had one of my biggest wins this past Friday with a quarterback from UNLV, quarterback from Maryland, both getting more on their passing yard projections. And you can do the same thing. Look, it's incredibly easy. Just pick more or less on at least two players and any of their stat projections, and you can win up to 100 times your cash. Look, they have flex play, which means in some instances you don't have to, have a perfect lineup to still be able to cash out. You can have withdrawals that are fast, safe, and secure. Mine get to me about 15 minutes or less. And for basketball season 2 coming up, they do have an Anthony Edwards free square. You can take advantage of all of this stuff. Use promo code 1075GAME to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game.
20 minutes after 5 o'clock on a Wednesday afternoon. Welcome back into the Postgame Show. Jay Phillips, Elijah Campbell with you. We got more sound to get to, and we'll blend in some more Gamecocks into the drive around the SEC as we also start getting ready for this weekend's game. So another pretty good slate of games. And the one in Gainesville becomes very intriguing all of a sudden, but that's another story for another day. I want to follow up, if I may, real quick on what I just had there at the end of the news, and that was Georgia Tech's decision to next year's game, which they would host at Grant Field, or Bobby Dodd Stadium, if you want to call it Bobby Dodd. I
like Bobby Dodd Stadium.
Yeah, I've just always said Grant Field, but they're the same place. Just the field is the field, and the stadium's the stadium. Anyway, their athletics director, Jay Batt, great name, says...
Don't know anyone with that name. Crazy.
says that in 27, they will return it to campus. He said the $10 million they're getting from Mercedes-Benz Stadium would, quote, be a transformative lift for Tech athletics. And he added in his statement, this was not a decision that was made lightly. As I noted earlier, embarking on the new era of college athletics requires exploring new revenue sources, as that is paramount to our goal of competing for championships at the highest level. Since they're moving it off campus, it is not going to officially be a home game. It will be considered a neutral site game, so it won't be part of the Tech season ticket package. But I guess Jay Batt and his staff made sure that Tech fans would get first priority seating.
All dozen of them.
That's what I'm serious, man.
They'll fill out half of a section.
Yeah, it'll be 80% Georgia fans, right?
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, easily.
And that might be a generous estimation.
It might, man, because I've never been to a Georgia Tech game in person, but when you see like Clemson and Georgia go to Atlanta, because there's so many Clemson people in Atlanta, or just that might travel from the upstate or wherever. But like when Clemson and Georgia go to Georgia Tech, it's typically like a 50-50 split.
Georgia Tech's kind of like the Vanderbilt of the ACC, where you're really only a fan if you have some like deep-rooted connection or you went to school there.
You went there, yeah.
And it's kind of hard to go to school there because they're really good schools.
It's a very good school.
They're very good schools.
Yeah, yes.
So, and you're in a state in which the other school that you compete with is significantly more popular.
Yes.
And has had a heyday that was good enough to get even casual college football fans to become fans of that team for a lifetime.
I mean this with no ill will or anything. There are tons of Georgia football fans that never went to even one class at UGA.
Or even have been to a game.
Right. And that's fine. That's a same thing in Alabama.
Same, yeah. Oh, yeah. And like, same dichotomy for Tennessee, Vanderbilt.
Happens a lot of places. Tennessee fans. There's tons of Tennessee fans that never went to school at UT Knoxville.
That's why at every Vanderbilt game you see, there are so many of the other fans there.
Yeah, that's fair. But $10 million's $10 million, man.
That's a lot of money.
It is. It's a lot of money for a game.
And that's a lot that you can do. Like, this is almost like, think about the schools that have these bye games that are either Group of Five or FCS schools. Like, for instance, Old Dominion made what, like $1.3 million?
I know Akron got 1.5. I think Old Dominion got less, but I know Akron got 1.5.
But Georgia Tech will make more by playing a game that they play every single year. They are making almost over 5 times more,
probably,
than what those schools take for one butt kicking.
For one game, yeah, certainly, yeah. I don't know what they would get as a gate at home for that game.
Yeah.
But I'm going to say it's not $10 million.
No.
Because if it was even anywhere close, then you don't do it. So, but their ballpark holds, I have it in here, hang on. It's 50-something, 52,000. 51.9.
Yeah.
So, it's a lot of money, man.
It is. Good for Georgia Tech.
Yeah,
I hope it makes them more competitive. I hope it helps them out.
You hope that's a successful roll of the dice, because it's one thing if you said we were doing it against North Carolina,
right,
or Miami or something, but when you have a home game against your in-state rival, even if they do bring a lot of folks into your ballpark, to then knowingly and willingly open it up to even more of your opponent's fans it's a real, I can see why there will be some who are like, what the heck are you thinking, man? And they ain't using heck.
No. They're a little more spicy with it.
But again, $10 million is $10 million. And right now with the ACC being what it is, you get an extra $10 million for one day of, and I'm not saying that Tech would go into it going, well, hey, we're going to lose anyway.
Fans, maybe.
But that I can't. I wonder if that's ever anybody. I mean, I certainly. I mean, I could never think of South Carolina or Clemson going, hey, for 1 year. Now, Carolina and Clemson have much bigger stadiums. They make a lot more gate.
Yes.
And they, I never heard of this. Again, I've heard of games being moved to neutral sites, but they're not the in-state rivalry game.
Something that you've been playing every year for a century?
At least. Longer, probably.
I guess that's what makes it a little more groundbreaking.
Yeah. So, and by the way, as Seth Emerson points out, this will be next year. Again, this is next season's game, 25. This year, Georgia Tech is going to be in Athens on Thanksgiving Friday, which Georgia, how much more did Georgia get to go, wait, you want us to play a football game on a Friday? A real game?
That ain't right.
But they're gonna.
We'll do it anyway.
Is there a little extra from ESPN to play that game?
Is there definitely?
Yeah, a little something extra.
Oh yeah.
I don't know how much. Maybe Kirby gets a new Mercedes out of it.
I knew another one that hopefully is driven at speed limit.
Oh, he drives his at speed limit for sure. Yeah,
where he's really not getting caught.
Yeah. So anyway, there you go. I just that's just fascinating to me. That's. But again, I'll say it and then I'll move on. $10 million is $10 million. What's the
you could do a lot.
What would South Carolina or Clemson have to do to say, hey, why don't y'all move the game to Charlotte
and play in the Panther Stadium?
Yeah,
probably the most full that stadium's ever been, ever.
I feel like at that point, like Graham Neff and Ray Tanner or whoever replaces Ray, would be like, I tell you what, Charlotte people, we're going to give you $1 million to shut up. Like, we're going to let you. That was the dumbest thing you could have brought us. So y'all go away. How's
Give
that?
me the old Jimbo Fisher. Here's a large sum of money to just leave me alone.
Yeah, just leave us alone. How's that? There's our answer to you. Y'all don't have enough money to make us move our game to your building. Sorry.
Yeah,
not that they ever would. But what would it take? We should ask Ray that next time he's coming on. What would it take? And it'd be like that scene in Vacation. No, I'm asking how much it costs, and I'm asking you
how much you got.
Drive around the SEC coming up. More from Dowell Loggins on how to get things better on the offense, and we'll start looking ahead to this weekend's slate of games in the conference. You're listening to the Postgame Show. Tell you about our great friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union. Holiday season is nearly upon us. You'll be having family and friends in the house. Maybe time to get things spruced up. Looking to make some improvements, maybe want to consolidate some debt ahead of the holidays? Look no further than a home equity line of credit from Palmetto Citizens. It could be a great option for you. Palmetto Citizens is local. They're not for profit, and they can get you lower rates and fewer fees than working with the big banks when it comes to taking care of something like this. When you unlock your home's equity, you can easily get that line of credit accessed over a 10-year draw period. So you can be assisted with all of those needs. Maybe this year it's sprucing up the kitchen or bathroom. Maybe next year it's, adding a playroom for the kids, or maybe a pool out back. Who knows? You choose. It's your money, right? Learn more at palmettocitizens.org or visit any of their 14 convenient Midlands locations. Join my wife and me as members of Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union.
From the WIS Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell. The few accidents to report to you that are causing some issues on the roadways. We'll start with the two in Richland County that are actively causing some traffic backup. One on Old Percival Road at Avon Circle, one on Farrow Road at Highway 555 at I-77, and then a few in Lexington County, starting with one on Highway 1 at Augusta Road at Pisgah Church Road, one at Highway 6 at I-20, another one on I-26 westbound at Augusta Road near exit 111, and lastly, one on I-77 southbound at Alexander's Bridge near Congaree River.
It is Drive Around the SEC time on this Wednesday. Welcome back in. Alongside Elijah Campbell, I'm Jay Phillips. I want you to stay tuned for the final segment of the program because the voice of the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, our very good friend Andy Demetra, has just hit me with some real knowledge about why this is not unprecedented in the Peach State. So I appreciate, A, that Andy is listening. Thank you, sir. B, it's very interesting. So but I can't do it right this second.
I love a good history lesson.
Yeah. So
I'm here for it.
And when you get the voice of a school like, hey, just wait till you see this, then you know it's like the real deal.
I'm in for it.
So there's that for you too. And he'll probably throw in something about Syracuse next.
I was trying to think. Wait, that's not who they have next.
No, that's where he went to school.
Okay,
that's where he went to school. I just figured he'd throw something like that.
Broadcasting school. Very nice. The Fighting Mike Tirico's.
I mean this I've worked with a lot of great people. I don't know that I have ever worked, and Andy and I never really worked a lot together with each other. I mean, we did enough, but I don't know that I have ever worked with anyone who is more thoroughly prepared for every event he's doing than Andy Demetra. I'm dead serious about that. He just so well prepared.
The best of the best do.
I like to think that I'm prepared. And I've had enough people that are above my pay grade who actually judge that kind of thing to say, you do a good job preparing. I say thank you. But I look at Andy and I'm like, and you say, well, Jay, why don't you prepare like Andy? I don't know.
Because Andy's a machine.
That's right. Maybe he's a cyborg.
Yeah, I mean, have you seen a cyborg and him in the same room?
No.
Then you can't rule it out.
But I appreciate Mr. Demetra doing that, so I will share that knowledge with you guys in the final segment of today's program. In the meantime, before we hear some more from Dow Loggins on prepping for a Brent Venables defense, let's go over the rest of what's going on this weekend. I'll come back around to the biggest game of the week last. Auburn will be at Missouri. This is only a 4.5-point spread with Missouri favored. I don't know what I thought. I mean, ask me, Jay, what'd you think it was going to be? 12? 15?
Yeah, I would have thought double digits.
Auburn's not very good.
At all.
But I don't know that Missouri is as...
I think the book's kind of banking on that. However, at home, look, and Auburn they didn't play last week. So that still means they have yet to play... they went to Georgia the week prior. Yeah. Had a little bit of a brain fart there. But they went to Georgia the week prior. That was their only road game this year.
They played okay.
Played all right. I think Georgia kind of played with them a little bit.
I think so, too. That's why I think Georgia did to State last week, too. I think Georgia's playing possum.
It has to some degree.
I think so. I think so.
I can't figure it out. But Kirby Smart, why not go ballistic like that?
Yeah, I say I want to believe that, not in any go Georgia kind of way, but I just want to believe that Kirby is let's just lull them into a little something here.
Get them right where we want them.
Yeah. But then again, it might just be that they don't have any deep passing threats. And
I think that's an issue.
The defense is a little shallower than typical, from a depth perspective. So, anyway.
Auburn, this is their second true road game of the year.
A&M is a big favorite at State, 16 points. LSU, Arkansas, LSU going to Fayetteville, just minus 2.5.
Oh, really? Oh, I'm genuinely surprised. I would have guessed more 8.5, 9.5 area. Arkansas is good, man. That's something I was not expecting to say during the summer.
Let me look at the FPI on this one. You want to guess?
Okay, FPI probably has.
I just
LSU.
made a facial expression, so Elijah might have seen that if that was a tip. I don't know, but a tip off.
LSU 56.
Yeah, 54.
Oh, man.
That's it, man.
I would have put it more LSU 65.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I'm thinking kind of in that range. I still feel pretty confident about LSU going in there and taking care of business.
It just might have to be a close one.
And that's like the old Tony Barnhart, they win because they have to.
Yes.
Because Brian Kelly cannot afford to go to Arkansas and lose to that team. Yeah, sure, it would suck for them to lose to Alabama again. And then Brian Kelly have another 2-loss season already on his hands before you get to, the end of the season. But Arkansas?
I wish I could do what Tony does, and just every time I think a team, they will win because they have to.
I love that. I love Tony's confidence in the teams that have to win. There's sometimes I need to do something, I have to do it in order to get certain things done or in order to achieve something, and I straight up still won't do it. So shout out to Tony for having that machine in his efficiency in all assets of his life.
Have you? Kentucky is at Florida. Have you seen the spread on this one?
Kentucky at Florida, I have not, but I'm going to guess that it's going to be Florida favored by 3.5.
Kentucky minus 1.5.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's see where it opened.
This might be a case of wrong team favored.
It hasn't moved. Line hasn't moved. I'm double checking here. Hold on.
Which also, if I'm a bettor, I'm not touching that game with a 10-foot pole. Sorry, brother.
Hang on, let me make sure.
Not getting within the stratosphere.
Nope. Florida. I got it back here now. Florida opened minus 1.5, and it is now Florida plus 1.5.
Ooh, I ain't touching that game.
I wouldn't either.
Cannot convince me to touch that game.
Is that game? big?
For some.
Yeah.
Actually, for both. Because you know what? If Kentucky loses to Florida, which you never thought you'd ever say this about a Kentucky head coach in your life, that if Kentucky loses to Florida, Stoops might be in a little more trouble than we previously anticipated. But if they lose to Florida, the Mark Stoops era might be reaching an abrupt end, because I think they've had it with that guy, and I think he's kind of had it with them. And for Florida to lose to Kentucky again,
Yeah.
especially considering the streak you've had on Kentucky for so long.
I think it's bigger for Kentucky. Yeah, this is almost like a Kentucky will win because they have to, but I don't know that they will. I think Florida got some confidence last week. I really do. I mean,
and they don't have that looming quarterback battle. Like,
right.
What happened to Graham Mertz is really unfortunate, man. I hate that for him.
Yeah.
That's how his college football career ends. But I mean, it's DJ Lagway's team now, man.
Yeah,
and
doubt.
you're playing with house money, because no one in the country believes in you to be able to salvage a season. No one.
Tennessee is hosting Alabama. It is the Tide -3. I did ask you about that one yesterday. Were you surprised? And you said you were not. I still remain a bit surprised. Maybe I shouldn't be, but I don't know. Just seeing what Alabama's done the last couple of weeks. But Tennessee has not done anything any better.
Offense has regressed.
Yeah, it has.
Nico's had a bad couple of games.
And maybe some coordinators have kind of found the flaws, and that's what these.
I think so, a little bit.
Yeah,
a little bit. The offensive line hasn't had their best last two games either, and that definitely for a kid making his first season starting. That can throw a wrinkle into some things. Arkansas and Florida both did a really good job at getting in Nico's face. And they showed that if you do that and you're aggressive, you're going to be able to get Tennessee off the field pretty easily. And I think that's one thing Kane Womack does with his defense really well is send the house. I mean, I don't think I got to use this stat, but in the South Carolina game, Jay, they blitzed 45% of the game. 45% of all dropbacks for blitzes.
You and I were talking this morning about this game, too. The loser has their margin of error more than likely taken away. They're not out of national title discussion, CFP discussion with 2 losses anymore.
Nope.
But you probably cannot lose again, and they both still have some tough games ahead of them.
Yep. I think we call this not a playoff eliminator game, but a playoff margin for error eliminator game. Yeah. You will have to be perfect from here on out.
And finally, of course, the big one of the weekend across all of college football is Texas hosting Georgia, number 1 versus number 5. The Longhorns are 5-point favorites in this one. It opened at Texas -3.5. So a lot of people confident that Texas gets the job done. As we said, for Georgia, already sitting on a loss that was, not unexpected, but you play better early, you don't lose that football game. Let's put it that way. But they did. I don't know. I said in that game when I picked Georgia to win until proven otherwise. Now it's been proven otherwise that Georgia can be beaten, that they do have some flaws. Texas looked fantastic the other day, man. I still am a big believer in what Georgia has, but it may well be that Georgia just doesn't have all of it this season.
There's something missing.
There is.
There's something missing that the previous Georgia teams had, and I think you actually kind of hit on it. And I don't know why it didn't register with me until you mentioned it. But like the depth defensively, maybe they don't have the 2 deep they did when they won those 2 national titles.
I don't think, because they're giving up points.
Yeah,
and that's not something they,
especially on the ground.
Yeah,
and then offensively, there's just not an explosive element that they have.
Well, you're missing Bowers, you're missing McConkey, and I just don't. And you've had a lot of your guys that got in trouble and or hurt.
Yeah, the trouble.
Seemingly all were at wide receiver.
Usually, at this point in the season, we're talking about position groups decimated by injury.
Yeah.
Not because of the county jail.
Yeah, foolishness. So that's our drive around the SEC, brought to you by Herndon Chevy. Stop by the showroom, see why Herndon makes you smile. All right. Again, going back to that Georgia Tech news, our good friend Andy Demetra dropping some knowledge on us about why it's not unprecedented, and we'll share it with you when the postgame show returns. Welcome back in. Final few minutes of the postgame show on this Wednesday. Reminder, the Lawyer Lisa Special Teams Contest is back. If Carolina gets a special teams score this weekend, that's a touchdown, not a special teams score. I guess I better, because you often score on special teams. A special
Field
teams
goals are a thing.
touchdown.
There
It
you go.
is specific. Someone's going to win $700. It's $100 per game. 7 games, no winners. So could be yours, but you cannot win if you don't register. So do that at 1075thegame.com. Thanks to Lawyer Lisa and her staff and law firm for helping us out with that. And dropping another $100 right in the pot.
Experience the difference.
That's right. Again, our good friend Andy Demetra listening to us today heard us talking about Georgia Tech next season, 25 season, moving their Georgia home game, the rivalry game, into Mercedes-Benz Stadium because those folks in Atlanta are going to give Georgia Tech $10 million to do so.
I want $10 million.
There you go. Well, move your rivalry game somewhere.
You tell me when and where.
Well, that's up to you.
I'll move it twice.
But I said, man, has anybody ever done that before? Like I just said, I would not think that would happen. And lo and behold, within minutes, again, the man who's maybe the most prepared man in sports, and I'm kind of serious about that, my good friend Andy Demetra, sent me the following. This goes down in Texas history as the debut for Royal, who finished 6-4-1, ranked number 11 in his first season. You see, Texas went to Atlanta and won a season opener in 1957. That's right, Texas went to Atlanta and won a season opener 26-7 against whom, you ask? Georgia. The game goes down in Georgia history as an example of how different times were. Georgia moved the game to Georgia Tech's home field because attendance would be better. At the time, Georgia and Georgia Tech struggled to fill their stadiums if they were playing on the same day, particularly Georgia, which is located in a sparsely populated area, wrote Dan McGill in Georgia's official athletic department newsletter. Quote, no Georgia supporter could regret moving the Georgia-Texas game from beautiful Sanford Stadium to Grant Field any more than your Georgia Bulldog editor, McGill added. But we must admit that it was financially necessary to do so. Georgia was in the doldrums of the Coach Butts era. They finished 3-7, and the opener set the tone, as did next year's. So, again, Texas beat Georgia in Atlanta when Georgia decided to move again. Now, it's not the in-state rivalry game per se, but nevertheless, there is precedent in
the game being moved
in the state of Georgia for that game to be moved. So I thank Mr. Demetra for that, who also pointed out Georgia Tech probably has more fans than Vanderbilt, and they do. They do. Vandy, because Georgia Tech has at least had some successes. In when I was in college, they won a national football title, and they've had some players.
Half of one, yeah.
Half of well, it's a whole one. It's just there were 2 back then, so it's a whole national title.
See, I still believe they should saw the trophy in half and give one to each winner.
Yeah, I think you just get back then you just got a nice plaque. Maybe one of those cool
sentiment still stands.
Certificates with nice, the fancy calligraphy, like that somebody actually did, not the kind you get on a printer. Somebody actually.
What's the goofy font that you can not T9 word? Comic Sans.
Comic Sans.
Yeah, put it in Comic Sans.
Right. Well, that was like my coupon.
Congratulations.
That was like my coupon for Ryan Brewer Fence.
It's in Comic Sans.
Yeah, well, it's in handwriting. It just looks like mine, but it should be, I think, a legitimate coupon. But nevertheless,
it will be if you make it in Comic Sans.
We'll see. But anyway, that's cool. Now, and Andy reminds us, Georgia Tech officially now, again, a lot of these national titles from back in the day, 4 total, 16 conference titles. So, but again, I remember that one. Bobby Ross. I was telling Elijah, who's not old enough to remember Bobby Ross. I'm serious when I say this. Bobby Ross, I don't know if he's the most underrated head football coach of my lifetime, because I'd have to really go do some digging. But Bobby Ross won multiple conference titles at Maryland, Boomer Esiason and Frank Reich and those dudes.
Terps.
Then moved to Atlanta to coach Georgia Tech. Won a share of a national title, but nevertheless, it's legit. Then moved on to coach the San Diego Chargers and took them to their only Super Bowl. They lost to the Niners, but they made the Super Bowl. Junior Seau, Stan Humphries, Eric Bieniemy. It's a good team because I remember they beat Denver in the AFC West back then.
And no one's taken that franchise since.
They have not.
With better teams.
But Bobby Ross was a hell of a football coach. And, again, doing it at places that are not traditional powers. I know in the NFL it's harder to say there's a traditional power. And there was a period 10 years prior, Dan Fouts and those dudes, when the Chargers were really good. Air Coryell. Yeah, they were really good and fun to watch. And I say this as a lifelong Bronco fan, but I will admit, man, it was fun to watch the San Diego Chargers when Dan Fouts was their quarterback. They did make a Super Bowl. Bobby Ross got a team that played defense and, again, had Stan Humphries as the quarterback.
Stan the Man Humphries.
To the Super Bowl. So, good stuff. So, Andy, thank you. We truly and humbly appreciate you chiming in on
I
that.
love history tidbits.
Yeah.
So
And
we'll
again,
accept more.
The man is, he knows what's up.
Send us all of them, Andy.
Good stuff.
All of them.
Appreciate everybody being with us today, including our buddy Jack Veltri. And to all of you, have a safe and enjoyable Wednesday evening. We'll talk a lot more football and a little more hoops tomorrow as well on the Postgame Show. See you.